Sleepy town settling for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right, and it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Let's finish and setting up.
That's a fine. What's on your shirt?
Flowers.
Oh, okay. I like it.
Just flowers.
Flowers.
Pizza.
Bridesmaids and flowers.
All right, let me open my Insta. We're gonna do a live, right?
Oh, that was lovely.
It's like the first thing that popped up on my Insta. Did you take a look at this? Is gonna be a long one.
I know. We're going to buckle up.
There's no way. There was no way to do it shorter. It's just that's what it is.
I don't know anything about this topic, so
Well, you're about to.
you're about to. It's a date.
It's a date.
Hey, which hey?
Hey, witch. Hey, I'm Justina.
I'm Christina. Welcome to Magnolia Street, your one and only musically inspired practical magic fandom podcast.
Today, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm scrolling down my notes. Okay. So, yeah, today.
Every week we
Oh.
do.
And I still fucked it up. How do I always be doing that? Yes, every week we deep dive on different aspects of the movie and the books, as well as treat your ears to our very own practical magic inspired original music.
You can do the next part too, since you were already there.
I'm on a roll here every week. Oh, no, we did that already. Today, we're cracking open one of the most iconic, most chaotic, and most plagiarized grimoires of the 19th century, the Magus by Francis Barrett. But before we do that, I think we're gonna do what we've been doing the past couple weeks now. We're gonna be hopping on a quick IG live to share some more unhinged AI Practical Magic 2 poster art, because these these have been bananas, right?
They are, at first I was offended. I was petrified. And now I kind of love them.
Yeah, these are
We're
pretty
getting
fun.
a whole new realm of practical magic.
Do you want to hop on here now?
Yeah, let's do
That
it.
mean-
Good morning, Magnolia Street neighbors. It's Tuesday, so we have a few little Practical Magic 2 updates we want to do for you. Graham's Tales here. Hey, girl.
Yeah. Good morning, Magnolia Street. We have 5 people on already.
I'm really liking this weekly Tuesday morning check-in.
Yeah. Why haven't we started this before?
We're just getting our ducks in a row, end of season 3.
We're Stella and we're getting our groove back.
We're getting the squirrels that are at the rave out of the club and into a line.
I like that. Yeah, our squirrels have been raving for the past 3 years.
That's
Graham's Tale says, hey, how are you? We're on our way back to pick up countertops, but I'm gonna watch till we get there. Awesome. Also, Alex Clark popped on and said, hey, witch, hey. Hey, witch, hey. Anybody else? I think there's maybe 2 other people on here. So, hey, everybody. We're just
Hello.
gonna do our weekly update. Again, there's not much to go on this week, but just a couple little things that are keeping us giggling over here, right?
Yeah, keeping us afloat, keeping us entertained for sure. The first thing I was going to tell Justina the story behind this. Kind of big news for us as a podcast. I was looking for Practical Magic 2 news and found an article, and this article had this beautiful watercolor picture that Stephen Alish did for the first Practical Magic of Maria Owens' cabin. Stephen Alish is part of Roman and Williams, and they designed the production design. So I took that picture, put it on our Instagram, tagged him in it as well as Robin, and just said, Maria, are you home? And request to follow him because he's private. He accepted the request. He shared the story and he followed us back.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh my God, Justina. Look at this.
Wow. That's
I was very
awesome.
excited.
That
Yes.
is really exciting.
What I was going to say to Justina before we hopped on here is I'm proud of how far we have come since season 1, because I tagged him in our Owens House episode. I didn't do I said we also have a Victorian architecture episode, and it says he has seen it. But just listening to the clip of us talking in that, what was that? Episode 5, 6, something
Like
very
4, it was early on, very early.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, like, we're not that bad anymore. I think we have come a long way since then. And that's all I wanted to say to you.
Definitely. That's amazing. You texted me that. And first of all, you texted me that at like 8 in the morning. So, my ass was dead asleep.
I know.
I took a glance at it. And I read your text and I was like, oh, And then I went the fuck back to sleep. I think I responded to like later on in the day.
That's awesome. And I was like, Stephen Alec, because I was at first when I cropped out the little watercolor, I saw the name and I almost cropped it out. I was like, Stephen Alish, Stephen Alish. And then so I kept it in and made sure to tag him, and it was very nice of him to follow us back. We're
awesome.
weaseling our way in.
I know. Yeah.
We're Irene.
Yeah. We have no chill.
Somebody superimposed Justine and I at the back door, like with our little Billy Zane posters and flags. So that's what I wanted to share. But the other things we have are a few wildly unhinged AI Practical Magic 2 posters that we have seen. And at first, I was offended. I was petrified, but now I really am liking them because it shows creativity on AI's part, not always able to get it right.
Yeah.
So these are fun. Should we go through these?
Yeah. My question is, though, are these all done by the same person? Or is it like different accounts putting these out?
I'm thinking it's different accounts.
Okay.
Because they just come through on TikTok and I just send them to you.
Okay. Yeah. I've been sending you the ones I've been finding too. So we've been like trading these, right? Every time we come across one. Or like, oh, here's another one. Here's some more gold.
They are like trading cards.
You know. So I guess we'll just take a look at these. This first one. This first one is very Discovery of Witches, or like, I don't know. It's not giving practical magic. This is giving sorceress vibes.
It's giving like Secret Circle almost.
Yeah.
Do you remember that show? Yeah. We're looking at, for the people on the podcast, we're looking at this sea of jewel tone gowns. There's Sandy and Nicole off to both sides. And then all these women, unknown women in the center holding candles.
You know what I noticed?
What?
They all kind of look like Evan Rachel Wood. Okay, well, that kind of looks like Nicole, but this girl, she looks
in the
like
middle.
Evan Rachel
Yes.
Wood.
Yes, she does.
And even the girl over here, these two look like Evan.
They're all kind of interchangeable. Like their faces are so nondescript. They could be anybody. So everyone's standing very statuesque. It's like Vogue photographer was like, okay, be fierce. And then they superimposed all. It looks like a Wiccan version of Avengers Endgame, in my opinion.
Or that what's that show, that Marvel show, Agatha All Along?
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, at least they got the spelling right on this one.
I agree. That's what I noticed in the next couple. The spelling is accurate. I guess we'll find out if there's
I noticed she's got a wand, and then these two girls have like pendulums or something hanging from their.
They do. The one on the far left does as well.
Oh yeah, I just noticed that. Okay. So I wonder why she's the only one with the wand there.
And we're doing some rune magic, which I don't remember a whole lot of rune magic in the movie, but we'll be surprised, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. You found this next one.
Okay.
I actually like this one. You can tell us about this one.
All right. So this one, we just did an episode on, what was it? What did we just do? We just did an episode talking about the candles. Was it the mandrake root?
Yes, the bringing the Jimmy back.
Yes. Okay, so we just did an episode on the mandrake root, and we were going through the constitute spell. And that spell, I don't know if anybody noticed, calls for like, okay, well, we think it's 4 candles, but there's like a little 1 next to it. Could also say 14. We're not sure. So between 4 and 14 candles. In the movie scene, they're using one chintzy little candle, and we're like, why did their spell not work? Well, maybe they weren't using the right ingredients that the spell called for. But I'm like, here, they're kind of more in the ballpark of what that spell is calling for.
I like the domesticity of this one.
Yeah, they have the book. They have some, I guess, some tea brewing here. I can't tell what all this is in the foreground. Can you tell what all that is?
It looks like glasses. I don't know. They're in the kitchen. They have lightning striking outside. But they have like the cool pots and pans on the wall and the giant herbs. It is much more Owensy. However, did they just take Nicole Kidman from Bewitched and put her in? She looks so distressed.
She doesn't look very Julian here, right? She looks definitely more like Samantha from Bewitched.
But I like that Sally's outfit is very chill. It's like a normal outfit that she would wear.
This is not giving Jillian at all.
No, ma'am.
Right? Not at all. But I don't know. Maybe Jillian got a little more Stepford Wives in her older age, but that could just
That's the other movie. Yes. Yeah.
right,
That's
right. That just
true.
could be them pulling from Nicole Kidman's past movies, because that's what I guess AI typically does. They pull from like what they already know and kind of apply it to whatever you ask it to do. So that's very interesting.
I do like the font that they chose. I think
Yes.
that's whimsy. I like the color, the warm and cool tone on the number 2. I do like that.
I like that tagline. The magic runs in the blood, and so does the curse.
Yeah, that was not bad.
What does that say on top of Practical Magic? You see that little
It's
font?
That
Like,
is AI jargon. That's just
and
gobbledygook.
gobbledygook?
That's
Okay.
gabagool.
I thought it was just, it's too small. I can't fucking read it. I
Out
like
of
that
the
one.
ones we have found, I do like this one. Don't know what's going on with the teacup. They could have left out the little purpley lightning from
Yeah.
Nicole, and I think that would have been okay.
Yeah,
Let's
this
talk
one's
about the
still
next one though,
okay.
because that one did not get the spelling correct.
All right, so this one's giving resurrection scene vibes, so I can vibe with that one. Not a fan of the first. It's not very Practical Magic, but we'll move on to the third.
Alex says sponsored by Yankee Candle. That was a note I had in here.
Did you?
What did this say? Hang on a second.
Wait,
I
for
think
the
it's
second
one
one?
before. It says more candles than a Yankee Candle warehouse fire.
Oh, heck, no, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least maybe if they're trying to do some resurrection, maybe it'll work here because they actually have, the amount that they probably need.
Proper amount.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. So third one.
Does that not look like Naomi Watts?
Yes. I
Yes.
don't. That does not look like Nicole Kidman to me.
No. The nose and the eyes. It's not her. And they didn't even spell the name right. It's J.N. Ohens. J.N. Ohens.
Oh, wait. Oh, Owhens.
Ohens.
Owhens.
And then Macy Williams is Masick Willems.
Masick Willem Gillum.
Gillum Defoe.
Gillum Defoe. And Joey J. Cunning, whatever that is. And Stocker Channing's right. Zola Mataduena looks okay. And then what's
So
on
this
this?
was from
Nothing.
Little Curish, 1974.
Okay. Sandy looks good on here.
She's got the straight hair. Could be curly. This looks
The
like
house-
a CW. Like
Yes.
the next big thing on the CW to me.
The house, not accurate, but cute.
2 out of those 5 young women are Macy.
Oh my god. Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
And
who these
wait,
other women
and
are.
even this blonde girl looks like Maisie with a blonde wig on.
Yeah.
It's her face with the blonde hair. She's giving like Lucy Hale, and she's giving Nikki Reed. I'm not
Nikki
getting
Reed.
from Twilight.
Twilight. Yeah. I don't know what
Yeah.
these lockets are that they're holding either. Like they all
Yeah.
had Sandy and Nicole have these lockets.
Right, and then they also all have some kind of like stardust surrounding their magical item.
It says
Yeah,
release info at the bottom. I don't know what that means.
release info. Interesting. A more rune action down here. It's definitely not Practical Magic. I think that's the thing about these photos. Like, they're way too magical. Like, Practical Magic, we loved it because it was so normal, like natural. Like, there was nothing abracadabra about it. And that's what we loved about this movie. I really hope that PM2 is not going to go this route.
Should we make our own poster?
We should put ourselves into the poster.
I'm down.
Because we're narcissistic as hell. And we want to involve ourselves in every way, shape, and form in this movie.
That's right. This
Wait,
last one,
You sent
go ahead.
me this last one, and I was dying because I thought the person in the middle was not who this person is.
It was a video. I couldn't get a screenshot. So
Wait, can you play the video for everybody? Is it on your computer?
yeah, give me 1 second. We should start making our own with Billy Zane and put his name at the top credits because she thought this gentleman was Billy Zane. So let me see if I can turn you around, and here, you can check out this beautiful artwork while I get that set up. Okay, that was it. Does that not look like Billy Zane?
Well, not when you actually play it. I was like, oh, that's the dude from Key and Peele, right? Is that the dude?
Yes.
Am I
Yes.
right there? Okay. Just the thumbnail that you sent me via text, because it's like a lot smaller than that. I just saw the ball guy between the two girls, and I was like, Billy Zane!
But okay, so wait, this image, I like this because it's kind of incorporating the ocean element, which is cool. And they got these
Yeah.
rooms and they're holding the candles. This looks kind of like they just came from a funeral.
Yeah.
Yes, Justina thought I put Billy Zane in this. If it makes you feel any better, Jess, I also thought that this boy was Lee Pace. It wrote,
I see it now.
it said that this one is pure fanfic energy. Nicole and Sandra are ethereal sea goddesses, and Lee Pace is just there. It's giving practical magic to Law and Order Witchcraft Unit.
Law and Order. Oh my God. Yeah. That's so funny.
Like
They're
the
giving
trench coats, the pea coats.
they're giving face on this one for sure.
I
They're
think if they
serving.
were wrapped in like Stevie Nicks shawls or something, that might be a little more Owensy than these
Mhm.
very structured coats.
Yeah. Right.
The
Oh,
curse ends when the truth is revealed. By Bookly Mama posted this one.
that's funny. Is that the last one?
That's the last one I have. Yeah,
I hope these keep popping up because they're giving me life.
I like them.
Yeah, they're fun. They're entertaining. I hope nobody thinks these are the real posters though, because
The comments though, people are so excited. Like
Yeah.
nobody is doing research.
Yeah, that makes me sad that people don't know about, like most people don't know about our podcast. We're still a very small podcast, but I hope people start finding us and they'll be able to get in on all the fun and laughing at these stupid things together with us.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree.
That is
Yeah.
so funny.
You
What do
wanna
you
know
had something else on the docket?
Yes, so on Joey King's personal Instagram,
Oh my
September
God.
7th, she
What are these
posted
photos?
this carousel. I went right by it because I didn't know that was Macy in the other picture, in the other person. But she
Yeah.
tagged her in it.
Okay.
So that is a girl's bathroom.
Oh yeah.
They are in the bathroom.
Okay. How many drinks did they have?
Wait, there was a good photo of that.
They're doing karaoke.
At least that many.
It looks like they're doing karaoke and they're getting started on their midnight margaritas, girl.
I know.
They
Somebody
got
commented at least the red hair is staying in the Owens line.
Oh my God. Wait. Okay, it looks like they got the tequila and the lime on that counter.
Yes.
So they're having themselves a nice little midnight margaritas scene there going on. And then these photos, this is like giving when, we first got MySpace and Facebook and we still had actual digital cameras and had to actually upload all of the images to the computer before you posted them.
Yeah.
Right? It's like this gives me early MySpace, Facebook party vibes. When you're still in college, you're going out with your friends, you're having a fun night of drinking, and like nobody has any shame posting their horrible pictures. And it's fun. It's fun. I don't mind these.
I like the bonding. Yeah, I agree. Who said that? I think it was Graham's Tales said they're trying to bond like sisters. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not getting the rest of the comments. I don't see any more comments popping in for me.
Alex said volunteer as tribute. And Graham said that they're where they need to be. I'll jump back on when we're done. Or finish watching it later.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
That's definitely a lime. They were definitely shooting the tequila.
They're shooting that tequila, girl. I'm telling you. I love the wigs. Like,
do you wear wigs?
Is this like a karaoke? It must be a karaoke. She's got a microphone in her hand.
Yeah.
It's like they're just having a good old time.
Yo.
She's got the glazed eyes. It was like a good night. She must have been hurting the next morning though.
Oh, I like to see the bonding. It's nice.
Yeah. And what's that party on the bottom?
I have no idea. I just didn't take the time to crop. I don't know what that is.
I saw that is it her sister have a baby or something?
Somebody's baby shower.
Baby shower. That's really sweet. I did notice that Joey King, she posts a lot of personal stuff on her Instagram and it's nice. Like, it's nice to take a peek into like she's not just an actress. She's like a human too. Like, and I think that's the cool thing about social media is that you get to just see that these people are just human too, living their lives. I mean, she's got this exciting big opportunity, PM2 coming up, but she's also living her life, being a regular early 20s girl.
20-something.
Yeah.
Okay, Owens.
I think that's all we had for our updates. No more leaks as far as movie scenes or anything goes. Did you have something else to add?
Someone sent us a hint as to there's a site for the UK that shows like street closures and things like that due to filming. That's in our messages. So we can kind of like sneak and track and see if the Practical Magic 2 filming. Hey, Tina, another Tina, where that's going on.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll have to check that out and maybe get that in on the next episode if there's anything in there of substance that we need to share. But I think that's
all I had.
For today, we're recording an episode today all about the Magus. If anybody's read the books, the book that Vincent carries around and practices with, but this is going to be a long one, so we're going to hit the ground running here. Thanks everybody for tuning in this morning, and hopefully we have more stuff for you next week. If not, any news, maybe some more of these whack-ass posters to share.
Whack-ass. Awesome. Yeah. All right, everyone.
Welcome back, everybody. We just hopped off our live. Now we're going to jump into the Magus. So first of all, what is the Magus? This is not to be confused with the 1965 postmodern erotic suspense novel by British author John Fowles.
What?
Yeah, that seems a little juicy. We're going to talk about that a little later on today. We'll tell you about that because it sounds too spicy not to talk about. And also because I think that's also filled with some occult-inspired content. I could be wrong, but we'll talk about that later. But what is the Magus that we will be talking about today? So in short, the Magus, or Celestial Intelligencer, is a handbook of the occult and ceremonial magic compiled by occultist Francis Barrett, and this was published in 1801. So before we get into the Magus itself, here's a little bit more about Francis Barrett. Little is actually known of Barrett's early life, but he appears to have been born in London between 1770 and 1780, and he made several ill-fated attempts at balloon ascents in the summer and fall. Isn't that so random? Just randomly be like, yeah, I feel like
around the world in 80 days kind of shit.
Balloon. Exactly. That, I guess that's what they did in the early 1800s, right? It's the
fun.
The onset of the Industrial Revolution, and all these steam-powered inventions were popping up, and the balloon was a big one that a lot of people were trying their hand at. So it seems random, but it would make sense for that time. But after, I guess, his balloon attempts, he's best known as the author, or more accurately, the compiler of the Magus, because, like us, we compile a lot of notes and stuff. People considered him to have plagiarized this grimoire, but I don't know if he ever tried to claim authorship. He's more like he compiled everything into one complete compendium of, he put everything in one place, organized all the information, very Stinas-esque.
Yes.
Right?
What a Renaissance man.
Very, yeah. So I mean, he might be somebody to aspire to be because we're doing the thing here too. It's a lot of work to compile notes. It's not easy. So Barrett, an Englishman, claimed himself to be a student of chemistry, metaphysics, and natural occult philosophy. He was known to be an extreme eccentric who gave lessons in the magical arts in his apartment and, what's this word? Fastidiously translated Kabbalistic and other ancient texts into English, such as von Welling's work, Philosophy of the Universe, circa 1735, from German, 1801. According to his biographer, Francis X, King Francis X, Barrett's parents were humble folk married in the parish of St. Martin's in the Fields on September 29th.
Oh, wait a minute. I think that's just Francis, Xavier King.
Okay. Francis Xavier. Okay, his biographer was Francis Xavier King. Not the King Francis. King Francis was not his biographer, which is what I made it sound like. Barrett's parents were humble folk married in the parish of St. Martin's in the Fields on September 29, 1772. I don't know how that's relevant to any of this, his parents being married, but okay. All right, so while the onset of the Enlightenment at the beginning of the 18th century meant the end of the serious study of astrology, alchemy, and magic, a few brave scholars, including Francis Barrett, carried on the occult traditions of the Renaissance. Barrett was enthusiastic about reviving interest in the occult arts and published a magical textbook called the Magus. It was a compilation, almost entirely consisting of selections from Cornelia Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, the 4th book of occult philosophy attributed to Agrippa, and Robert Turner's 1655 translation of the Heptameron of Peter of Abano. Barrett, I don't know what that is. Barrett made modifications and modernized spelling and syntax. What is syntax exactly? Do you know what syntax is?
Maybe turn a phrase?
Okay.
I don't know. I just compile.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes I don't even compile.
Yeah, go check out our hero page. All of our Francis Barrett work is over there. Right?
Good one. Yep.
We get all Virgo about it. I wonder if he was, so did it say what month he was born? Was he a Virgo? Did it say what month he was born? No, it just said very vaguely he was born between 1770 and 80.
Okay.
But no month was available. But I'm wondering if he was a Virgo, if he had these tendencies to compile things in an organized fashion,
I'm wondering why there was, for somebody so, well, I guess to me well known, like, why doesn't he have a birth month? So let me look
Right.
into that.
Okay, I'll keep reading. So, yes, the Magus dealt with the natural magic of herbs and stones, magnetism, talismanic magic, alchemy, numerology, the elements, and biographies of famous adepts from history. So, the Magus also served as an advertising tool. In it, Barrett sought interested people wanting to help form his magic circle. An advertisement in the Magus, Volume 2, page 140, refers to an otherwise unknown school founded by Barrett. According to the advertisement, this is what it said. The author of this work respectfully informs those that are curious in the studies of art and nature, especially of natural and occult philosophy, chemistry, astrology, etc., that having been oh God, what's this word? Indefatigable in his researches in those sublime sciences, of which he has treated at large in this book, that he gives private instructions and lectures upon any of the above mentioned sciences, in the course of which he will discover many curious and rare experiments. Those who become students will be initiated into the choicest operations of natural philosophy, natural magic, the Kabbalah, chemistry, the talismanic arts, hermetic philosophy, astrology, physiognomy, etc. Likewise, they will acquire the knowledge of the rites, mysteries, ceremonies, and principles of the ancient philosophers, magi, Kabbalists, and adepts, etc. The purpose of this school, which will consist of no greater number than 12 students, that's a small class, being to investigate the hidden treasures of nature, to bring the mind to a contemplation of the eternal wisdom, to promote the discovery of whatever may conduce to the perfection of man, the alleviating the miseries and calamities of this life, both in respect of ourselves and others, the study of morality and religion here in order to secure to ourselves felicity hereafter, and finally the promulgation of whatever may conduce to the general happiness and welfare of mankind.
That must be what syntax is.
Okay. He uses
All of that gobbledygook.
a lot of Victorian language there, right? Vernacular, if you will. Barrett ends by saying that, quote, those that feel themselves thoroughly disposed to enter upon such a course of studies may speak with the author upon the subject at any time between the hours of 11 and 2 o'clock at 99 Norton Street, Marylebone, end quote. Is that in France? I don't know where that is.
So is this an advertisement in a paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it sounds like he put this is in the Magus. It says the Magus book 2, page 140. So you also used this compendium as a way, it seems, to advertise this occult school that he was, I guess, trying to run. But he was only accepting 12 students.
Okay.
That's what it seems like here. Yeah.
So it said that his birthday is December 18th. He is a Sagittarius,
Oh, look at
1774.
Look at that.
He's a Sagittarius sun and a Gemini moon.
Oh,
But he was
wow.
born under a full moon that year, so that's pretty cool.
Where'd you find that
I
information?
Googled it. Well, I Googled the birthday.
I Googled it. Duh. Like, I could have just done that.
I found the birthday, and then I wanted to see what the moon was doing that day, so I Googled that as well.
Yeah, interesting. So I guess the Wikipedia page that I was looking at, and then like the little sublink that I clicked on, it didn't have his, I guess, direct birth date, just like an approximation of the year he was born.
He was only 56 when he died.
Oh shit. Well, I mean, that might have been old for that era. Right?
True.
And if you think about all the stuff in the Victorian that could kill you, like everything, he did a pretty good job of making it halfway through life without
dodging all of the exploding toilets
and Shields Green and the walls and all that stuff.
Oh man.
It is possible to trace Barrett's influence through his student, John Parkins, who practiced as a magician and a cunning man in Lincolnshire, England in the early 19th century. In an 1802 manuscript entitled Directions for the Invocations of Spirits, Parkins is mentioned as a pupil of Barrett. Parkins appears to have practiced horary astrology, Horary. I've never heard of that before. Also, he practiced crystal gazing, geomancy, herbal medicine, the construction of astrological talismans, and ceremonial magic. I have also never heard of geomancy. I'm guessing that's like you point to a map and like wherever your finger lands,
Ooh, I like
maybe
those.
Maybe use that location as a means to, I don't know, read a fortune or something.
Maybe geomancy, you know, the TikTokers who have like the map set up and it has like the crossing of the different signs at different times. Maybe that's
Oh,
it. This
yeah.
horror astrology, this says that it's an ancient branch of astrology that predicts the future by using, this might be what your friend does, predicts time of a question rather than the birth of a person. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like, didn't you say one of your friends uses astrology to help find people? Like who
Yeah.
disappear?
Yeah, she's one of the Conways used to do that. That's interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
Geomancy, yeah, maybe they rely on coordinates to kind of give them the information that they're looking for within the planetary star in the cosmos, whatever. Interesting. So yeah, he had this student, John Parkins, and thus through the efforts of a few studious and determined practitioners, the traditional occult arts and sciences continued despite the deleter effects of enlightenment. I don't know what he means by that. It says Barrett is best known for authoring, or more accurately, for compiling the Magus, published in London in 1801. Cornelius Agrippa's, alongside of the Robert Turner's 1655 translation of the Heptameron of Peter of Abano. Nevertheless, as the modern scholar of religion and magic, D. Michael Quinn notes the Magus had a great influence despite only one printing.
Aiden Quinn's dad?
Oh my God. Yeah, maybe. Barrett's book was not reprinted until 1875. Nonetheless, Francis King's study of the Western tradition of magic noted that the first edition of the Magus played an important part in the English revival of magic. Antoine Favre has also emphasized Barrett's book in the general European revival of magic during the first decades of the 1800s. So moving right along, this is a blurb about Barrett and Joseph Smith. So Barrett's book also played a significant role in one of the most interesting discoveries and subsequent controversies involving Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormons, or Church of Latter-day Saints. In 1974, Dr. Reed C. Durham, a Mormon and noted scholar of Mormon history, gave a lecture entitled, "Is There No Help for the Widow's Son?" Durham revealed a medal worn by Joseph Smith, and long thought to be a Masonic emblem, was, in fact, a talisman of Jupiter. Smith's talisman appears to the left. So it was in here. I deleted all the images because they were just taking up space.
Yeah, no
But
worries.
if you want to go down the rabbit hole, go take a peek at that. So what is interesting to note is that Smith's Jupiter talisman is almost identical to the example given by Barrett. This format is not provided in either Agrippa's Latin original nor the English translation of 1651 by John Freak. John Freak.
Nice.
The illustration in the English translation appears below and to the right. Note the break in the seal, which seems to be a printer's error and does not appear in the Latin original, though it is faithfully copied in the Magus and Smith's talisman. Renaissance astrology offers authentic Joseph Smith Jupiter talismans cast not only with the same design, but with the appropriate astrological timing. Not surprisingly, this discovery caused an immense amount of controversy as opponents of Mormonism seized on it to attack the LDS Church with charges of occultism and magic, and LDS adherents attempted to undermine the significance
Whoa.
and provenance of the talisman.
Whoa. Okay.
As a practitioner of occult philosophy, the author of this page, this article, says, I had a somewhat different reaction to the talisman. Rather than seeing the use of magic and astrology as evidence against Joseph Smith, I had greater respect for him and the coherence of his worldview. Here are some additional articles on Joseph Smith and esotericism by Lance Owen. Joseph Smith, America's Hermetic Prophet, and Joseph Smith and Kabbalah, The Occult Connection Part 1, and there's also a Part 2 and a Part 3. That being said, I have no desire to be drawn into the battle that still rages concerning Joseph Smith, occult philosophy, and the Church of Latter-day Saints. My interest here is in the diffusion and survival of talismanic magic after the Enlightenment. So here are just some additional views from the author of this page. When writing about witches, Barrett stated that he did not believe that their power to torment or kill by enchantment, touch, or by using a wax effigy came from Satan. He claimed if the devil wanted to kill a man guilty of deadly sin, he did not need a witch as an intermediary.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Barrett's belief in magical power might be summed up this way. The magical power is in the inward or inner man. a certain proportion of the inner man longs for the external in all things. When the person is in the appropriate disposition, an appropriate connection between man and object can be attained. And that is all from renaissanceastrology.com. So I'll link that in the show notes if you guys want to click on this page and take a look at all of the talismans and images that it includes in this passage so you can kind of see what we're talking about. And so before we start today, if you guys would like to follow along with what we're talking about, you can find the entire Magus, the entire book in digital format at www.sacred-text.com. We will also link that in our show notes and our hero page if you guys want to download that or, just flip through it. And if you're curious at all, because this book is pretty fascinating and it's very long and it's a lot. We're going to give you the cliff notes today.
I'm excited to learn about it because this definitely is probably what people think magic is. This is not my kind of church. You know what I mean? This is not the magic I do. So it's going to be cool to learn about.
I don't even know if this is the kind of magic that Sally might do. Or,
but Vincent,
and
even story.
And we'll learn when we dive into the practical magic books. This isn't even magic that Franny and Jet would do. Franny is put off by the idea of Vincent going down this path.
Okay.
Yeah. So just putting that out there. So yes, I just wanted to preface this episode by saying this is going to be a chunky one. This might be divided up, not 3 parts, like 3 different episodes, but 3 parts today. Like we're probably going to have 2 ad breaks.
Okay.
At least. Because I thought it would be easiest to kind of break each book up into its own respective chunks because the Celestial Intelligencer made my head spin.
You didn't want to make this a series?
I did want to make it a series. So what we're going to do today is kind of an overview.
Oh God.
This is the overview. If we want to do a series, I don't know if you scroll to the right on our OneNote, I have each book divided up more in depth into each of their own parts.
Okay, we're doing it.
We could make this a series if we want to go down that rabbit hole. I gave us some options to play with, but today, although it's chunky, this is just the overview. Okay? Yeah, so
let's dive in.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. We're going to take a quick glance of each chapter just so you guys can get a brief understanding of each one as its own part of the book. But yes, I do think it'd be cool make it a series and take a deeper look at each of the parts of the book on their own. The Magus is split up into, I think, 2 books. Book 1 has about 4 parts, an introduction section, then there's part 1, which is the first principles of natural magic, then there's the second part, which is the Jewel of Alchemy, and then the Celestial Intelligencer. That is all book 1.
Okay.
Book 2 is about 6 parts, and this is magnetism, and then there's the part on the Kabbalah or the secret mysteries of ceremonial magic. The next part is the perfection and the key of the Kabbalah or ceremonial magic. The next part after that is of the peculiar composition of the magical circle. And then we have the magic and philosophy of Trithemius of Spanheim. And then the last part of the book is Biography Antiqua, which is kind of like a compilation of mini biographies about all of the authors and occultists that Barrett kind of, I guess, got all this information from.
His sources.
Exactly. He gives them all like their own section and their mini biographies, so you can go down the rabbit hole about each one individually.
Right. So why does this book matter? The Magus matters because it kept Renaissance magic alive and made it accessible to later generations. Even though Francis Barrett mostly borrowed from Agrippa, Paracelsus, and other earlier sources, his 1801 book was one of the first major English language compendiums of occult philosophy at the time, when many of these texts were rare and untranslated. Because of that, it became a gateway text, inspiring the 19th century occult revival, shaping groups like the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley, and feeding directly into the imagery and ideas that later formed Wicca, modern witchcraft, and even pop culture depictions of magic, like practical magic and charmed and the craft. Even the posters we looked at today with like the runes glowing from the ground and, all of the sigil magic. In short, the Magus matters less for originality and more because it acted as a bridge between the Renaissance occultism and the modern magical culture. And for those reasons, today, we're not just going to explore the book from cover to cover, but we're also going to examine its legacy in magic, pop culture, and why Alice Hoffman may have included it in her magical world and in her books anyway. The Magus has no mentions or appearances in the film, but in true Stinas fashion, of course, we're going to find our own threads that may tie the Magus to the film's world anyway.
Yeah, so before we dive in, let's answer this question. What is the Magus, like at a glance? So the Magus is one of the primary sources for the study of ceremonial magic, and for a long time was one of the rarest and most sought after of the 19th century grimoires. Barrett's magnum opus embodies deep knowledge of alchemy, astrology, and the Kabbalah, and has been cited by the Golden Dawn and other occult and esoteric movements as source material. Written in 1801, in the middle of the, quote, Age of Reason, sandwiched between Newton and Darwin, this was possibly the last epoch that a work like this could be composed. It's essentially a compilation of earlier magical texts like Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy and the 4th book of occult philosophy, often attributed to pseudo-Agrippa. Some even say that he plagiarized a great deal of this text, which we'll talk about more later on. Barrett was a practicing occultist deeply into Neoplatonism, alchemy, Kabbalah, ceremonial magic, and he designed it as a magical education manual, a kind of curriculum for aspiring magicians. So here's a key quote from the Magus. Magic is the highest, most absolute, and divine knowledge of natural philosophy. That is by Francis Barrett himself. And the tone of this book as a whole, I guess, this is saying it's playfully reverent, like you're hyping up a dusty old drama queen of a book.
I like that. Cute. Okay.
So I guess he's taken from the old masters or whatever, and he kind of like, puts his own more
queens. Yes.
He's putting his own more modern spin on it for the time anyway, when he put this together. You can purchase this on Amazon. So we will link this in our show notes if you guys want to purchase it. But now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the actual text and explore the Magus from cover to cover. But you're probably wondering, what does it have to do with the world of practical magic? Let's first take a look at how Francis Barrett's magic manual shows up in the books. So in Hoffman's Practical Magic series, the Magus is more than a dusty occult handbook. It's almost a character in and of itself, one that both tempts and shapes Vincent Owens. It first makes its appearance in the Rules of Magic, book 2 in the series, and this book is the prequel to Practical Magic, and it centers on Franny, Jet, and their brother Vincent, and it's basically their coming-of-age story. And in the Rules of Magic, Vincent comes across the Magus. It also does make another appearance in Book of Magic, the conclusion to the series, and I don't think the mentions are as much as the Rules of Magic. I'm surprised. I didn't find any mentions of it in Magic Lessons, which you would think it would, because that was more of like the antiquity book, right? It was more of like Maria's origin.
But it wasn't written yet. He wasn't alive yet.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Good point. I didn't.
Alice.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay. But they do mention Agrippa, right? In Magic Lessons.
I think so. I'm not sure his timeline. I'm thinking like Galileo era. I have no idea, but we'll talk about him on this show eventually.
All right, so for everybody listening, if you want to put this more into perspective, Francis Barrett was more the early Victorian era, around
1700s,
early 1800s,
little bit before.
Right? So like the early Industrial Revolution and all that. That was more of his era. So that makes sense. So we're gonna start with Rules of Magic, and this starts on page 9. This is kind of a long passage, but there's something in this passage that made me go, I want to talk about this. So there was nothing interesting in the desk drawers or the closet, but when she reached into the cobwebby space beneath her brother's bed, she discovered an occult handbook called the Magus. Franny knew its history, for it was on their mother's list of forbidden books. It had been so popular when it was published in 1801 that not enough texts could be printed. People committed robbery in their desire to own it, and many devotees kept it hidden under the floorboards. Vincent's well-worn copy was still just as potent as ever. It smelled like sulfur, and as soon as Franny saw it, she had a sneezing fit. If she wasn't mistaken, she was allergic to the thing. But was she allergic to the dust, or was she allergic to the stuff inside of it, right?
Right.
The Magus was so hot to the touch, she burned her fingers on its binding as she plucked it from its hiding place. It was not the sort of item a person picked up on a whim. You had to know what you were looking for, and you had to have the courage to handle it. Franny flung the text on the kitchen table as Vincent was having his lunch. There went the potato salad and the coleslaw spattering across the tabletop. The spine of the book was black and gold, cracked with age. When it hit the table, the book groaned. "Where did this come from?" she asked. Vincent stared at her and didn't flinch. "A used book kiosk outside the park." "That is not true," Franny said firmly. "You've never been to a bookstall in your life." Vincent could flim-flam other people. Even Jet could be fooled by his charm, but Franny harbored an instinct for such things. Truth felt light and green, but a lie sunk to the floor, heavy as metal, a substance she always avoided, for it made her feel as though she was trapped behind bars. Still, Vincent was the most appealing of liars, and Franny felt a swell of love for her brother when he shrugged and told the truth. You're right. They couldn't sell it in a bookstall, he confided. It's still illegal. Any copies that had been unearthed at the turn of the century had been burned on a bonfire in Washington Square, and there was a little-known law forbidding the book to be kept in libraries in New York City or sold in bookstores. Isn't that crazy? Like, this
Yeah,
was
what in the hell?
illegal? Was this really illegal? So this passage made me go, Okay, so Alice gives the Magus some interesting traits in this passage, specifically the following quote, where she says, inside the book, now splayed upon the table, Franny spied images of witches led to a gallows hill. The date printed below the illustration was 1693. A chill of recognition ran through her. She'd recently written a report for history class on the Salem trials, and therefore knew this to be the year when many of those set to be tried escaped from New England in search of a more tolerant place, which they found in Manhattan. And then it talks a little bit about John Hathorne and Cotton Mather here, both judges in the Salem witch trials, right, in New England. So going back to the passage in Rules of Magic, Franny goes on to say, why would you want this thing? Franny's fingertips had turned sooty, and she had a strange feeling in the pit of her stomach. And here's why this passage makes me go, okay? So Barrett's The Magus, which we're going to learn in a minute. We're going to deep dive on the book itself. The Magus was an occult handbook of astrology and alchemy. This was not a witch hunter's manual. What Hoffman is describing in this passage sounds more like it could be the Malleus Maleficarum to me, which we know as the Hammer of the Witches, right?
Right. Yeah. Why would there be an illustration of a 1693 witch walk,
In New
you know,
England,
in New England and a
right?
book written in the early 1800s?
Right, and what we know from the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of the Witches, that was a pamphlet in the UK, in Essex. That was not even in New England, and that was all about Matthew Hopkins, the witch finder general. We talked about that in our Essex witch episode we recently did. So it was like really boggling my mind while Alice was kind of mixing up this handbook on occult philosophy by somebody from the 1800s, and then this Hammer of the Witches, Malleus Maleficarum pamphlet that was written in the UK in the 1600s, but then she's making it sound like there's stuff about the witch hunts in New England. I was like, what's going on here, Alice? Okay.
Right, right.
Yeah.
If they had left out or if she had left out the John Hathorne and Cotton Mather information, then maybe you could be like, okay, that kind of piece it together. But the fact that they mentioned that directly and that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about with the Magus.
Right. So I was like, why would she do this? But then I was like thinking she could be trying to use these concepts to turn the Magus into more of a fictional hybrid grimoire that carries both forbidden esoteric knowledge while also layering in imagery from witch hunt history, like the burning times in the UK and the images of the gallows and Salem 1692, and tying that all together to tie the Owens family story to more American witch lore. Because it kind of fits, if you think about it, it fits her narrative for her characters. But if you aren't well versed in your witchcraft history, you probably wouldn't even bat an eye at this reference, right? But it's something that I caught after doing this deep dive and doing this thorough review of and research of the actual real life Magus and learning what it was and also learning what it wasn't. It,
Hmm.
I had to point that out because I was like,
Right.
interesting why Alice would compile all of these together. But then, like, also, why would she not just give it a fictional name? Why give it the name
Right.
Magus?
Right. Because as a reminder, Francis Barrett is from the UK. He's not an American. Like, I know there's people who are not from here who are interested in American history,
Yeah,
but to combine those two texts is
yeah.
kind of weird. With it would just make it a whole new book.
But she kind of combined three, if you think about it. She combined the Magus, the Francis Barrett book. She combined the Hammer of the Witches, which was like over in the Essex in UK in the 1600s, and then also stuff about the witch trial history in the 1692 in New
Yeah.
England. So there's like
Yeah.
a lot of different things going on here, but I'm guessing she just wanted to like make a compilation and put all everything into one bag so it's easier to explain. But I'm just like, why not give it a different name then?
Yeah, you only got so many pages to tell a story.
Why call it the Magus though, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now we're going to find out what the actual Magus is. So, moving on to the rest of the passage, it said Franny could guess where the Magus had come from, the place on their mother's list where they were never to go, downtown. It was rumored that what was outlawed in other parts of Manhattan could be found there. Trust me, it's nothing to worry about, he muttered, quickly retrieving the Magus. Really, Franny, it's just a lousy book. Be careful, Franny admonished him. So Franny tells Vincent that they don't know what they're dealing with. Vincent points out to her that they both know that there's something inside them that's different and that their mother doesn't want them to know. And he points out to Franny that she knows it. She knows this thing is different about them that Franny's kind of like not wanting to acknowledge here. So continued on page 11. He'd known that Franny would come across the Magus today and that they would have this conversation. In fact, he'd written it down on his skin with blue ink. He now held up his arm to show her. Franny finds the book. Coincidence, Franny was quick to say. There was no other justifiable cause. Moving on to page 28. So the Owen siblings are sunbathing in this passage, and Jet mentions how they are oddly buoyant, I guess, when they, figure out they can float. I think this is Jet saying this. You know who can't be drowned. Oh, wait, no, this is Vincent. You know who can't be drowned? Vincent remarked from his perch on a flat rock. He had learned all about this in the Magus, with illustrations of women being tied to stools and sunk into ponds. Again, not anything about what the witches can do or their floating powers. It has nothing to do with any of this,
I'm so confused.
right?
Yeah, because you've gone through the Magus and organized all the chapters. None of that was in there.
Not that anything that stood out to me in my knowledge. Like, yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay.
okay.
All right,
All right.
moving right along. So when his sisters didn't respond and merely looked at him with confused expressions, he provided the answer, witches. So everything can be explained with scientific evidence, Franny said in her blunt, forthright manner. I don't believe in fairy tales. Franny, Vincent said in a firm tone, you know who we are. On page 41. Still, each day, April and Vincent continued to disappear without a trace, clearly looking for the trouble they would one day find. At last, Franny spied them in the rare book room at the library, intent on the Magus. The two of them had gleefully set the glass drop chandeliers to shaking, which had the librarians frantically calling town hall to see if there had been an earthquake. On page 76, occasionally he saw a glimmer of himself in the mirror above the bar, and then he would sink down in the booth. He wasn't ready to see who he was. In the Magus, there was a forgetting spell, which he cast upon himself. Still, he must have recited it incorrectly because he felt a spark of his true self when he was walking through the park at night. He heard his own heartbeat then and felt a quickening in his blood. He wondered what it might be like to open the door to a different life, one in which he did not hide in taverns or walks in the dark. Page 78. Whatever we did, it didn't quite work out, Franny admitted. I asked for flight. You have to know how to ask for things, Vincent told her. The Magus says always be specific. And this was when Franny was explaining the wish that her and Jet made at the alchemy tree on Halloween night and how she asked for flight and it sent her the bird instead.
Mm-hmm,
So she's
mm-hmm.
explaining this to Vincent. And he's kind of like, well, you could have used the book, but she doesn't want anything to do with this book. She thinks it's got something ick about it to her,
Mm-hmm.
On page 99, this is when Jet follows Vincent to the Jester, one of his watering holes that he frequents, to proposition him to take a letter to Levi under the guise that the, quote, Starling Band had been invited to play at a prep school north of Boston. So yeah, Jet goes to him and she's like, this is what you're doing. He's like, I've joined the band. And Jet's like, yesterday, right? I'm very clever, Vincent said, aren't I? The music teacher said he'd been trying to get you to join for ages. He's delighted. Do I actually have to play? There's a concert in the morning. Then you take a taxi and wait for Levi outside of his school at 3. And if his father is there waiting too, have you factored in that possibility? Jet took a sip of beer Vincent had ordered. So then I guess Jet's giving him permission to use the Magus then. This plan doesn't work out, I guess then use the Magus and try to pull one over, I guess, the Reverend's eyes, right? On page 111, Vincent and Franny see a Death Watch beetle crossing the threshold of the door in the house. He knew it was from his readings in the Magus, and now he advised Franny that the Death Watch beetles are wood borers that can be heard in the rafters calling for mates. They signify to death. You cannot destroy destruction, the Magus warned. Though you may try. Vincent had gotten rid of the beetle, but not its message. You cannot unwrite a death that has been written. There was no spell strong enough to do. And I mean, newsflash, I don't think there were also any mentions of the Death Watch beetle in the actual Magus either.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
All lore invented by Alice. Again, why not name it something else? So it's a little confusing. On page 149, this is after the Owens siblings' parents die in the car crash and they have to sell the family house. And a real estate agent soon began showing the neglected house to prospective buyers. When the realtor would try to show the house, Vincent kept his room locked and he drew a skull on the door in black ink. "Stay the fuck out," he said to the realtor. He doesn't understand why Franny wanted to sell the house, and she has to remind him that they're broke. Vincent would cause so much havoc each time a new prospector buyer came through that Franny would pay Vincent $10 just to get the fuck out, so he would go to the ramble and practice his magic. You know what this passage is giving?
When your parents were trying to sell their house?
Yes, that's what it's... And, like, the lights were going out, and my mom was like, "Stop making the lights go out." And I'm like, "It's not me, it's our ghost. What do you want from me?"
It's not me.
It's our fucking house ghost. Get off my back.
That's so funny.
That's exactly what it's giving. That's the first thing that I thought when I read that. He was focusing on his powers of intense concentration. He could make larger and larger objects move. Okay, so this is when he's at the ramble practicing his magic. He can make larger and larger objects move, at first with a shudder, then with a leap. Rocks fell from the cliffs above the paths. People stayed clear of any area Vincent claimed for himself when he set a circle that couldn't be crossed. He carried the Magus under his coat, studying it so closely he had much of it memorized before long. Did you ever have a grimoire that you just carried around as, like, you know, when you were, like, coming into your path?
I think so. Just as, like, a journal, like, daily moon phases and what I was working on and stuff like that. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think the very first witch book I ever bought was in a little shop in New Hope, Pennsylvania, and it was called Charms, Spells, and Formulas. I think it might have been like an old, like, I don't know if it was like hoodoo or I don't know. They talked a lot about gree bags.
Oh, okay.
And like charm bags, basically.
Yeah.
Never, I don't even think I've ever used any of I might have used maybe one spell in that entire book, but like all the ingredients always called for like some like shit that I never heard of. So I was like, I don't even know where to get half the stuff.
This is out of my league.
Exactly. But I bought the book. I was like, oh, I'm buying a witch book. But I don't think I ever did anything with it. But it's sentimental because it was like the first book I ever bought.
Right.
I used to like carry it around like I knew what the fuck I was doing. I didn't do shit.
I think practical magic was my first grimoire.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of snooty thing to say.
Well, I mean, better than carrying around a book you had no idea what the fuck you were doing or what he even was talking about. Yeah. But I thought it was just cool to have like a witch book when I was 13,
is cool,
right?
You are cool.
Yeah, so Vincent's carried around this Magus book, and now he's memorizing the thing. Page 180. He took to wearing a black cap woven out of metal thread in an attempt to shut out his clairvoyance. He found the cap on the Lower East Side where he bought his first book of magical instructions. He never admitted the truth to Franny, but he'd first read about the Magus in a book he found on a shelf in their father's office, for Dr. Burke Owens had studied folklore and ancient magic and Jungian archetypes. Vincent had been a kid, but one who knew what he wanted. He wanted to be the best at what he did, no matter the price. He searched for the Magus, but in every bookstore, that clerks laughed at him and told him of all the copies that had been burned long ago. Then he had come upon a shabby vendor strung out on drugs who peddled magic from a makeshift room in an abandoned building. Yeah, that's exactly who you want to be buying your grimoires from, right?
No doubt.
There, hidden in a wheelbarrow beneath the threadbare blanket, Vincent found the book. In exchange for the text, Vincent had handed over a $50 bill filched from the coat pocket of one of his father's patients and a strand of his mother's pearls stolen from her jewelry box. He'd assumed the vendor had no idea of the true worth of his treasure, but then the old man had said to Vincent, "I've been wanting to get rid of that. It will lead you down the wrong path if you're not careful. It's a burden." Do you think it led this guy down the wrong path?
And that's why he's in an abandoned building selling shit out of a wheelbarrow?
Right. Yeah, strung out on drugs. Exactly. When Vincent returned...
Vincent's life doesn't get better.
Right.
It does, but it gets worse before it gets better.
You're exactly right about that. Maybe the book cursed Vincent in essence, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Vincent returned to search for the iron hat, he looked up the old vendor, but the magic man had long ago disappeared.
All I can think of is
Wait,
like a
wait.
tinfoil hat.
Yes. And then also, he said he looked up the old vendor, but the magic man had long ago disappeared.
Like
The
your,
same thing, Vincent disappeared too.
oh, I thought you were gonna say your joy visions.
No, no, I wasn't even thinking about that. But I'm like thinking,
This
if
makes
this
people
book
disappear.
has the ability to make people disappear, that would make sense. If this old man selling the book to Vincent is no longer found, and now Vincent's fucking with this book, and then in essence, eventually he's no longer found.
It's just David Blaine.
What the F, David Blaine? Page 182. He was gaining an audience in the village. He'd helped this along with the invocations from the Magus, but so what? Fame was addictive, even the tiny bit he'd garnered. People crowded around him in the park, and often a group was gathered there waiting for him before he arrived. Like David Blaine. But he wondered if it was magic that drew them to him, and when they dispersed, he felt more alone than ever. He could make it happen if he wanted to. The crowds, the fame, the records, the stardom, but what would the price be? On page 194, and this is when Vincent goes to William's apartment. After he'd gone, Franny saw that he'd left the Magus at home, which she took to be a good sign. She went after it, thinking she would hide it under a loose floorboard in the kitchen, and perhaps Vincent would probably forget about it entirely. But when she went to grab the text, it burned her fingers. "Fine," she said to the book, "as long as you leave him be." Page 221. Vincent stretched out his long legs. He was all in black and he kicked off his shoes. He realized that he felt more at home singing in a subway station or in a park on a summer evening than he had in Monterey. All that time of playing around with the Magus, thinking he sought fame, and now it was the last thing he wanted. Right? Be careful what you wish for. Isn't that what Jet said in the movie? Mm-hmm. Page 272. This is Vincent and William are having an argument about trust in this passage. So it says, Vincent refused to discuss the situation any further. He would not allow William to be shattered by sorrow that belonged to him alone. Was this the curse, succeeding at last in breaking him? He went down to the Lower East Side, returning to the building where he'd once set up shop. He had the Magus with him, tucked inside his coat. It was as if he had two beating hearts, one his own, the other belonging to the book. All this time, the book had been his closest companion. He hadn't really needed anyone since the day he had found it, until now. So, Vincent brings some ingredients with him to do some love magic. This says he had brought along the ingredients necessary to undo their attraction. So I guess him and William. His own blood, black paint, pins, a bird's broken wing, a thin strand of lead. He could fix it so that William would never even see him. Okay, so this next passage, this is when Vincent imagined William no longer knowing him. He found that he could not proceed. So I guess that stopped him from completing the spell. Like the thought of William not knowing him at all. He was like, I don't think I want to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
On page 274, as Vincent passed a sewer, he tossed the magical ingredients down through the grate into the watery depths below the city. Then he took out the book that had been with him since he was 14. So he was around the same age that I was when I found my book.
Aw, what an age.
Little witch baby. Baby witch. He went to Washington Square and left the Magus on the bench for the next person in need to find it. It was wrenching to do this. He had so treasured this book. It had spoken to the darkness inside him. It had been his true voice when he had none. But that time was over, and what magic there was inside him. Page 286. He went over the spells he remembered from the Magus, doing his best to recall the magic that had once come to him so easily. He was convinced Aunt Isabel's story of Maggie the rabbit was meant for him when he was hiding from himself, denying who he was. Now, in the glinting half-light of the hospital room, he practiced spells he had memorized. On page 286, he heard the door to his locked room open, but he was too far inside his head for it to matter. He had perfected the ability to hover somewhere outside of his own body, something he had learned from the Magus. He was in California, and the grass was golden. Nothing else mattered. He could stay forever if he wished. So this made me think, he's astral projecting, right?
Yes, he is, yeah.
Do we think that Jillian also learned how to astral project from the Magus at some point? Like, was that book left laying around for Jillian or Sally to find?
I'm trying to remember because Jillian does do left-handed magic. Is this Magus considered like the left-handed path?
I would guess so, right?
Okay. All right. And is he going to California to see April?
April? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? Because she's out on the West Coast now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they have, at this point in the book, they have Regina together.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you might be right. Maybe he's going to California to kind of like astrally project and check in on his daughter. That,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know if he's met her at this point, but he knows he has her, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's going to check in on her, just see everything is okay. And you know what else this made me think of? Vincent was astral projecting to California. Do you think he was listening to California by Joni Mitchell?
Or Going to California by Zeppelin.
Or
What's his bag?
or that one, but I was thinking Joni Mitchell because that's what Jillian's listening to when she's astral projecting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Another funny thing about that is that the first line of the song in California by Joni Mitchell is sitting on a bench in Paris, France. And where did
Mm-hmm.
Vincent flee to? Paris, France. So I don't know. Does Joni Mitchell help the Owens' astral project?
Joni's gonna help you blast out of there.
That's my theory. That's my theory. That was it for Rules of Magic. And there was a little bit of in Book of Magic, so I'll let you take the reins for that one.
Yeah, yeah, get a sip of water. That was a lot.
It was-
So on
Do
page
you wait,
30,
but before we jump into Book of Magic, do you have anything to add to the Rules of Magic stuff that we just read?
I'm still kind of just stuck on her using the title of an actual occult magic book
Right.
that had many authors and compiled by Francis Barrett, but then adding in all this other lore from not just one place, as well as maybe there is information about how to astral project in this book. I'm not sure. Maybe maybe we'll go over it.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just interesting what you
Yeah.
can do with fiction.
It is interesting. It's a mixed bag how Alice makes the Magus appear in these books. I'm still grappling with the question, like, why wouldn't she just give it a fictional name, right?
But she did
Why
that with the Book of the Raven.
is the Book of the Raven a real book?
I think it's a fake book.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to dive into that one too at some point. But yeah, why not just give it a fictional name? That just boggles my mind. Like, why confuse people? I guess if if you're not deep diving like we are, I would have never batted an eye at that reference, you know?
I did ask her if she wanted to add anything or why did she choose the Magus on Instagram, and she said something. She said she would love to be able to write, but she doesn't have enough time. She's going to the UK.
Oh, okay.
I
Oh.
said, have fun.
All right. And also recently, after we did the Essex Witches episode, I think she reshared that post of our Listen Now slide on Instagram.
Mhm.
And then she DM'd us and she was like, oh, I was just chatting with the
Yes.
Witchcraft Essex Museum in Essex, UK. I was like, oh. Are
Oh,
you
did she
going?
say anything else? I can't remember.
I asked her if she was going there and she was like, no.
No. I saw that. I did see that part.
I like how she randomly DMs us sometimes to give us little tidbits. And then when we ask for more, she pulls back. She's like, never mind.
Never mind.
Never mind. I said too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does Book of Magic address the Magus? So on page 37, this says, when she, talking about Jet, reached for the book, the binding scalded her fingertips. She could feel the darkness within the text. She knew left-handed magic when she saw it. Okay, there's our answer. So maybe Jillian had something similar,
Okay.
and that's where she learned to astral project. We don't know.
Right.
Black magic so perilous that every page was inflamed. She thought of the time her brother Vincent had discovered the Magus, a compilation of the history of magic first published in 1801. The magic had shaken the bureau drawer whenever it was locked away. Like it has its own spirit, as if it had a life and mind of its own. At the turn of the century, it had been deemed so fearsome that copies had been burned on bonfires in Washington Square. Page 75. He decided to walk to a shop he discovered years ago, Amulet, set on a small winding street on the left bank beyond the Ile de la Cité. It was a plain-looking shop with a few books messily stacked in the windows. If a passerby didn't bother to read the titles on the spines, he might think it to be an ordinary junk store that featured old volumes and antiques. But the Magus was there, in plain sight for anyone who stopped long enough to peer through the glass. This was the book that had first introduced Vincent to magic when he was young. He'd been a boy when a vendor sold it to him, warning him that once he opened the Magus, his life would never be the same. So Vincent sees the Magus and he's going into the store, but he doesn't buy it. He buys a scrying mirror at this point. On page 163, this says, fortunately, most of the volumes in his collection were more well behaved than others in the dark cabinet. I think this is talking about Ian, because Ian's the one with like the magical book collection. Let me keep
Yeah,
reading.
I think so.
So little Albert contained homely spells that would catch fish and rabbits along with healing charms and ways to render oneself invisible. The Dragon Rouge, a French grimoire that listed enchantments and ways to keep evil at bay. And of course the Magus, written by the British occultist Francis Barrett, which at the time of its publication in 1801 was a comprehensive compilation of magic of all kinds. The copies, coveted, covered with black cloths in bookshops, the very text Vincent Owens had found when he was a boy who broke his mother's rule that he must never go downtown. Page 166. This is when Ian was in jail and his mother, Margaret, would bring books on magic for him to read, and one day she brought him the Magus. Looks like crap, he said, scowling. Maybe it's too complicated for you. Margaret! Margaret had said to get a reaction. Ian had accepted the challenge and had been reading ever since. Do your time and learn what you can, Margaret had told her boy, and for once in his life he listened. That was the good luck. That was what saved him, those books. He celebrated each text he completed by getting a tattoo from his pal who used ink with broken pens and straight pins held over a match to sanitize them, more or less. And then page 221, Ian was grateful that Francis Owens would have such faith in him, but he felt a stab of uncertainty at the same time. He gazed at the others, Sally setting the table, Jillian curling up in his leather chair, talking to Ben on the phone, Francis paging through the Magus, the volume that had changed his life when he first broke the rule not to read magic books.
Wait a minute. So I don't remember how the Magus came back into Vincent's possession.
I don't know. I forget.
Right. So Ian had the Magus, and then maybe, I guess, when they were like on their little adventure, he gives it to Vincent? I don't remember how that works, but I'm wondering, where the fuck did Margaret find the Magus, right? Because apparently this book was so hard to find.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm wondering. Okay, wait.
Also, remember when, okay, so in Rules of Magic, Vincent leaves it on a bench for some random person to find.
Is this in Paris, you think?
That's what I'm wondering.
Did Margaret find the book? Because they'd be about the same age.
Wait, where's Washington Square? I'm guessing that's New York, right?
Oh, that's New York. Yeah.
So he leaves it on a bench in New York for some random person to find. I don't think it ever says that this is like the last known copy.
Right.
It's last known copy. So I mean, maybe there's a few of them floating around, but I'm wondering, is this the same book that Vincent leaves on a bench in New York? Some random person finds it and then it somehow makes its way over to the UK for it to come into Margaret's possession, for her to pass it to Ian while he's in jail, and then Ian gives it inherently back to Vincent. That that whole circle, that like, just to think about that is really cool. I think if it's the same one that makes its way back to Vincent, that would have been a cool touch.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to talk about the movie. I see you have a table here.
Okay.
So yeah. I thought it would be cool. I just changed it for you to do like the Magus side and I'll do the movie side, or vice versa. Whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Although the Francis Barrett's masterpiece does not make an appearance or even have any mention in the film, right? Even though we see the aunt's grimoire, that is not the Magus. Here are some ways that we can find some connections between the Magus and the Owens magical way of living in the practical magic film. So I'll read the Magus side if you want to read the movie side. So the Magus from 1791, the first concept, we have rings engraved under Venus that bring love and beauty, under the moon, fertility and protection.
So Jillian's like ring or her necklace, Sally's charms, and the Owens women wearing their talismans infused with intention. Even Gary with his star.
Yeah. There is a section of the Magus that specifically talks about the power and of intention and using rings, like finger rings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, interesting. The whole thing about the snake ring in the movie, very interesting. So then the next on this list for the Magus, the moon's 28 mansions each carry a virtue, love, travel, healing, protection, and images are sealed in wax and perfumed at the right time.
And in the movie, this could be Sally working by moonlight in the kitchen, or the entire town joining the Owen sisters under the full moon to banish Jimmy.
And maybe her letter, how she seals that in wax, trying to find some other connections.
Yes.
And then next on the section about magnetism in the Magus, a wound heals if the blood is treated elsewhere. Desire itself directs sympathy. So, right, sympathetic magic.
That makes me think of like kind of Reiki work. You know, sometimes if you're having a problem with one thing, focusing the energy somewhere else, everything's all connected in that way. But anyway, as far as the movie, Sally ripping up the floorboards and she can sense Michael's death even before or as it's happening. Because we get the sound from his scenes, but we see her react without the car or anything being in that area. Or Jillian's bond with Sally, tugging her back home through that Owens intuition, you know, their palm scar.
Yeah. And then the next thing on here is seals, circles, and characters must be traced to draw spirits, words, gestures, and timing matter.
And this is absolutely Absolutely. When the aunts make that circle and they use the phone tree coven, they join the hands, they have the brooms. It's ritualized yet rooted in the everyday.
And then necromancy and spirit communication warned against, but included as a part of the magical tradition.
Right, like the resurrection spell. The aunts warn that it has its dangerous consequences.
Yeah. And like I like how like they're like, okay, you shouldn't do it, but we're gonna include it in the grimoire anyway because it's part of magical tradition.
It's kind of like having your baneful herbs, your mandrake. You put on yours the ones that Justina designs, the little skull and crossbones. Like, this is deadly. I'm gonna put this in here so you know.
Yeah.
Don't do this. It's like maybe somebody one day will accidentally put all these constituents together, and they should not.
Not in the right way.
Right.
Like-
They're not gonna have 14 candles.
Not 14 candles, just one measly little one.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So the last thing on this list is a ceremonial instructions full of lofty theatrical language, robes, pentacles, and sacred lamps.
Yeah, so the Owens magic is the like domesticated version of this. It's still theatrical in its own way. I think like the aunts doing the midnight margaritas, they're calling it in, they're playing it up, but it's kind of stripped of a Baroque pomp.
Yeah. So those are just some of the ways. I'm sure we could find tons more parallels if we sat here and went through the movie and the Magus together with a fine-tooth comb. But we want to get to the Magus itself, right? We want to get to the meat and the potatoes. We want to know all about this book. What's actually in it? What's not, right? What else did
I'm so
Alice-
confused.
why did Alice confuse us and include all that other stuff that is most likely not in here? So let's take a look inside. What does the Magus contain? So the purpose of this work. In the preface, Barrett explains that the Magus is written for seekers of occult knowledge, drawing together material on natural magic, the Kabbalah, celestial and ceremonial magic, alchemy, and magnetism. He emphasizes the effort and expense of gathering these teachings into one volume so that readers no longer need to spend years collecting scattered books. And that's why we started this podcast.
We organized the fuck out of all of the topics for you. Playlists and links and sources, all at your disposal.
We're the Francis Barrett to the Practical Magic fan, right?
Arbiters of taste.
We are arbiters of taste. Exactly. So let's talk about the structure of this book. So book 1 is natural magic, talismans, astrology, sympathetic forces like attraction, repulsion, healing, communication across distance, like the palm scars, includes experiments, seals, mathematical magic with influence from Agrippa and Paraclesis. In book 2, this focuses more on the Kabbalah and ceremonial magic. It promises insight into prophecy, visions, angelic and demonic invocation, and practical good works like healing. If the practitioner lives a pure, temperate, disciplined life, though. Okay. And then book 3 is kind of like a magical biography of all the great philosophers and magicians: Zoroaster, Hermes, Trimetheus, Agrippa, Dee, Roger, Bacon, etc., aiming to place the science of magic on respected historical authority. So he notes all his sources. He gives you the down low on all of them, their whole life's story. He goes into all their biographies in this section. Now, some key themes to take away here throughout the Magus. One is the natural versus supernatural. Barrett stresses that much of what is called, quote, magic is simply the natural application of forces, what he calls, quote, actives to passives. We'll explain more about that later. Next is Christian framing. He insists that true magic aligns with Christianity, interesting enough. He portrays the Magi, who recognize Christ as the first true magicians, and insists that a true magician is a true Christian. He warns against pride, urging practitioners to root their wisdom in God, humility, and charity. Another theme is talismans and celestial magic. Barrett explains how talismans work through celestial influences, timing in the practitioner's spirit as a conduit. He even suggests long-distance communication and dream revelations are possible when both parties are properly prepared.
Okay, wait. So there's where Jillian's astral projection might come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Next is numbers and divine order. Numbers, weights, and measurements are seen as divine signatures, like mathematical structures, how they reflect God's creation.
Angel numbers.
Angel numbers, right? And wasn't the creation, what's that story in the Bible?
Like the fall of Adam?
Yeah. Wasn't there 7, how many days? It was a certain amount of days.
Oh, yeah, like the creation story of the earth. Yeah, the 7 days.
7 days,
creation.
yeah. And then we have moral instruction. The preface closes with advice. Practice purity, humility, and secrecy. Seek wisdom from God and use magical knowledge only for the benefit of others and to honor the Creator.
I kind of like that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he kind of like fuses Christianity with magic, which is really like to us in the modern era, like we're so used to like Christianity casting down like the pitchfork of shame onto anybody who practices witchcraft. And like we look at Christianity as kind of like these people that make us feel this shame.
Right. When in
So
turn, they're doing the same thing in a different color, in a different
right.
flavor.
Yeah. So Barrett kind of like fuses the two together here in this book, which is I thought was interesting.
Okay.
So, the tone and intention of this book, Barrett frames the Magus as both a practical manual and a moral guide, positioning magic not as forbidden sorcery, but as divine science, rooted in scripture, history, and natural law. He also acknowledges the curiosity of, what's this word, novitiates, like people who are new to, I guess, their practice, while offering deeper guidance for more advanced adepts. So now we're going to get into book 1, part 1, the first principles of natural magic. In chapter 1, this is called Of the Parts of Magic and Its General Rules. In this section, magic is divided into different parts: natural, mathematical, and ceremonial. Natural magic works with the hidden properties of nature, like plants, stones, and animals. Mathematical magic uses numbers, obviously, like measurements and proportions. Ceremonial magic deals with divine or spiritual contact, often requiring rites or like rituals, right? True magic blends all three, using natural correspondences, planetary timing, which there's where the mathematics comes into play, and sacred ritual. So the magic rests on those three pillars, and together they show how hidden virtues, celestial timing, and sacred acts all weave in the world's enchantments. So that's part 1.
I'm
in a
on
nutshell.
board right now. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm in it. I'm in it.
In a nutshell. Now, moving on to chapter 2. This is called Of the Means of Understanding Natural Things and What Things Are in Them That Are Marvelous.
Okay, what a chapter name.
What we said before, like he fluffs this up a lot.
What makes them marvelous?
It's what would you call it? I don't know, magical theater.
I like, yeah.
I don't know what you would call it, but yeah, the way he describes things. So in this section, he goes on to say the world is filled with hidden virtues, occult properties embedded in nature. While some can be perceived by sense or reason, others require a deeper study, tradition, or revelation. Marvelous effects like magnetism or healing herbs come from these unseen properties. True magic is the art of uncovering and applying them. Basically, nature hides mysteries beyond what our senses perceive. The magician's art is learning to draw out those hidden virtues and use them wisely. That's chapter 2 in a nutshell. Chapter 3 is called Of the Threefold Consideration of Things, Elementary, Celestial, and Intellectual. So in this section, everything exists on 3 levels. The elementary, which is physical matter, the celestial, which is influence of stars and planets, and the intellectual, divine forms and intelligence. To work true magic, one must align earthly materials with celestial timing and divine intention. So magic, if you think of it as a chain, earth, sky, and spirit, right? To work wonders, the magician binds together the powers of matter, the stars, and the divine. Like think of like the magician of the tarot, right?
Yeah.
So that's chapter 3 in a nutshell. Moving on to chapter 4, this is titled Of the Three Guides of Man's Life, which are nature, discipline, and fortune. In this chapter, human life is directed by 3 forces: nature, also known as inborn qualities and temperament; discipline, which is learning, culture, and self-mastery; and lastly, fortune, which is chance and fate. Magic operates best when we recognize and harmonize these forces rather than fighting against them. Our lives are shaped by all of these things: nature, learning, and luck, and magic thrives when we balance what we are born with what we cultivate and what fate ultimately ends up delivering to us. So that's an interesting spin on everything. Chapter 5, how one thing is said to be in another by threefold consideration. And in this chapter, philosophers say one thing can exist in another in 3 ways. The first way is formally. These are also known as inherent qualities. The second way is potentially, also known as hidden powers awaiting activation. And the last one is spiritually, influenced by likeness or sympathy. This explains how the stars can be said to dwell in stones, or how celestial virtues echo in earthly forms. Hidden powers lie within things formally, potentially, and spiritually, and this is how the stars sing in stones and the heavens touch the earth. He's got such a poetic way of like, I don't know.
I really like it.
Again, all of these are just like very quick, like off the cuff synopses of each individual chapter, but each one is like very in depth. So if we
Are
want
we
to
gonna read this book?
if we want to do like a deep dive on like do like a one section per episode, make a series out of it, sure. In chapter 6, this is called Of the Wonderful Virtues of Things Natural, How Magicians Collect and Apply Them. So in this chapter, magicians study natural correspondences, plants, stones, animals, and elements, and draw out their powers by collection, combination, and timing. Virtues can be strengthened by mixing sympathetic things or by using celestial moments when their influence is strongest. So basically, nature brims with virtues waiting to be gathered. Magic is the art of combining them at the right time so they shine at their full power. Moving on to chapter 7, this is called How by Natural Things We May Draw Forth Help and Virtues from Above. And in this chapter, earthly things act as a channel for celestial forces, like the herbs, stones, and metals aligned with planet, how it becomes a vehicle of its influence when used at the proper time. Through this sympathy, natural things serve as ladders between the heaven and the earth. So herbs and stones are ladder to the stars, and by their sympathy, we draw heavenly virtue down into earthly work. So I guess if you think about it, like again, going back to the magician of the tarot, you know, how he's holding up that staff up to the heavens, but then he also, doesn't he have two fingers like down to the earth?
As
It's
above,
like,
so
as
below.
above, so below, exactly. I don't know if Barrett was the one who kind of coined that term or those concepts, because I mean, again, he took these concepts from like Agrippa and other occultists. So
Right.
I don't think any of this is original. He's just
Right.
kind of streamlining it for us, you know?
Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And kind of outlining it chapter to chapter so it's better understood. So then moving on to chapter 8, how the passions of the mind change the body and how great virtues lie hidden in harmony. So in this chapter, the mind powerfully affects the body, joy strengthens, fear weakens, imagination shapes health. Music and harmony stir the soul and body alike, altering mood and even physical conditions. By aligning with celestial harmony, magicians use passions and music as tools of power.
I'd read that chapter.
Right? Exactly. So this is basically, it says the mind shapes the body, harmony stirs both. Emotions and music are not just feelings, they are forces of magic. And
Yeah.
I think we can relate to that chapter, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Um,
music is spell work.
Basically, chapter 8 right here, in a nutshell, it's basically how we started, you know, writing music together and formed this podcast. And now it's just taken on a life of its own. That really, alchemy. Right?
Alchemy.
And then lastly, chapter 9. This is titled How the Mind of Man May Be Joined with the Mind of Celestials, and by what means the soul may ascend. In this chapter, the human mind, through imagination, contemplation, and faith, can rise towards celestial intelligence. By making itself like the heavens, it receives their virtues more purely. This ascent links the soul to higher powers, making magic possible. So when the mind imitates the stars, it shines with their power, and through imagination and faith, the soul climbs the ladder of heaven.
So this book,
Mhm.
it's technically like 3 parts, or are 3 different books? Can you remind me?
So the first part of the Magus is basically the principles of natural magic.
How long is this book? Like 500 pages?
Oh God, I don't even know.
I'm
Okay,
just
so
curious.
the first book, it includes these different parts. So the principles of natural magic, the jewel of alchemy, and then the celestial intelligencer.
Okay.
But the celestial intelligencer is chonky. That part of this book in and of itself can be its own book. So I don't know why he included it in the first part with the natural magic and all that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get into that part, the celestial intelligencer. We'll get into that after the first ad break. But first, why don't you tell us about book 1, part 2, the jewel of alchemy?
I'd love to. I wanted to say, all right, this first section, no mention of witch trials.
No.
No, not all.
Nope.
So we'll keep our eyes open
Yeah.
in this next part 2, book 1, part 2, The Jewel of Alchemy. So this title page, this simply announces The Jewel of Alchemy as a treatise revealing the hidden wisdoms of the philosopher's stone, which we've talked about on this show before. It frames the work as a precious treasure, drawing the reader in with the promise of unveiling divine secrets long concealed. This Jewel of Alchemy sets the stage. We're entering into the book that claims to reveal hidden treasures, nothing less than divine mystery of the philosopher's Philosopher's Stone. The Epistle to Musaeus, addressing the mystical feature Musaeus. The epistle, is that like an apostle?
Good question. Wait.
I don't know. Maybe he's like a devotee or a student.
Oh, it looks like it's a biblical term. Okay, so an epistle is a writing directed or sent to a person or group of people, usually an elegant and formal didactic letter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a letter to Musaeus, I'm guessing.
Okay, so this also says a book of the New Testament in the form of a letter from an apostle.
Got
So
it.
if this is like talking like about biblical, because I mean some of the stuff in the Magus, it does get pretty biblical, so that could be what it means.
Okay. This
Yeah.
says that the epistle positions alchemy as an ancient sacred art handed down through divine inspiration. The author honors Musaeus as a symbolic teacher of mystery, suggesting that this text continues that lineage. It emphasizes secrecy, reverence, and the need for purity of intent in approaching such knowledge. This alchemy is framed as a sacred inheritance passed down through inspired teachers of old. The author invites the reader to step into that lineage with reverence and humility, with perfect love and perfect trust.
Yeah. You know what song I've been having on repeat like recently? It's like really weird. I don't know if it's like I was inspired by this episode. Building a Mystery by Sarah McLachlan.
I have to listen to it.
It's
I
like
can't get it in my head.
building a mystery,
Yeah.
holding on. So 90s, so wonderfully 90s.
Getting you in the fall vibes there a little bit.
Yep.
Chapter 3 is To the Reader. This section addresses the reader directly. It warns against approaching alchemy with greed, Vincent, arrogance, Vincent, or a desire for power, Vincent.
Vincent.
Instead, the seeker must be guided by patience, virtue, and a willingness to undergo inner transformation. The author stresses that only the sincere will find success. The art itself, it hides from the unworthy. And the preface to the reader makes it clear that alchemy is not for the greedy or the careless. It is a path for the sincere seeker who seeks wisdom and transformation more than wealth.
Here's another kind of like thing that makes me go, another discrepancy between what Alice is describing, which is this very dark book that takes Vincent down this dark path, and this is saying otherwise. This is a book of virtue. This is for somebody who really wants to be enlightened and ascend to their highest sense of self, only practicing magic for the benefit of humankind. This doesn't sound like the same book Alice is describing in her series.
Agreed. Oh, Alice, we still love you. We
Yeah.
like digging into this because you always have to ask. Always ask questions.
Always educate, right?
Yeah, look for your own information and sources.
Right.
I'm really digging this. This is fascinating
Yeah.
to see, like, for an author who does do so much historical research.
Right.
I know you can only do so much.
Yeah.
When you have this idea, this fictional idea for this fictional family and this world you're trying to build, and you need this little plot point. How are you going to fill that plot point? And okay, here's this Magus, which was a real thing. That's fun. How are we going to make it form these characters? How is this going to push our plot forward? I get it.
Yeah, and again, that makes me ask the question, why give it the title The Magus? And like, it could have been some generic title, The Magus, because like the Magus is also a novel that we're going to talk about later on.
Okay,
But, like,
that's
she
right.
specifically gives it the
Publication date
the pinpoint of the publication date and the author.
and the author.
So I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yes. Chapter 4, I guess, is a two-parter, maybe more. Chapter 4, Part 1 of Alchemy, its divine origin. Alchemy is presented as a divine science, flowing from God as the source of all wisdom. The text argues that the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone are hidden in scripture, nature, and the order of creation. It is not a human invention, but a gift intended for the restoration and healing of mankind. The pursuit of alchemy is likened to a spiritual vocation, aligning the practitioner with divine purpose. Of the preparation of a man to qualify him for the search of this treasure. Before attempting the great work, the seeker must undergo moral and spiritual purification. Yes, this is the total opposite of what Vincent goes into getting the book and using it for, and what she says it does.
Yeah.
So, yes, he must undergo these things, she. Pride, impatience, and impurity are stumbling blocks. The alchemist must cultivate humility, prayer, patience, chastity, and detachment from worldly desires like money, power. This preparation is both moral and mystical. Only one who is inwardly transformed can recognize and work with the hidden matter of alchemy.
This mentions nothing about incest.
No.
Vincent.
No.
Vincent and April, we're looking at you.
Yes, yeah, we have to remember. And when he was in that relationship, that adulterous relationship, he was under 16 years old. He was 14.
You're right.
So,
Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah. Big yikes.
So, yes, just to reframe this chapter talks about being able to use this through humility, prayer, and purification. Can the seeker hope to uncover the treasures of the philosopher's stone? So then we have part 2 that comes up in chapter 5 of the manner of extracting the first matter of the philosopher's stone. This section begins the practical doctrine. It speaks of the mysterious prima materia, the first matter from which the stone is to be drawn. The text emphasizes that this matter is hidden in plain sight, present everywhere in nature, yet known by few. Extraction requires not only technical skill, but the spiritual preparation described earlier. For without purity, the seeker cannot recognize or properly refine the substance. The passage hints at veiled methods, allegories, and symbolic language, making clear that the true key is revealed only through divine illumination. So the second part turns that elusive first matter of the philosopher's stone, that's something hidden in very plain sight, yet invisible to the unworthy. It's like the secret door, kind of thing.
Platform 9 3/4.
Or like that scene in Indiana Jones when he has to walk across the bridge that's not there, but you look at it a certain angle and you are worthy. It's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Good movie.
I love Indiana Jones. Oh my God.
Me too. Only with spiritual insight and careful preparation can the alchemist begin the great work.
There it is. There you go. Yeah, so that's wrapping up only 2 chapters of that first book. We're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, we're going to get into part 3 of this first book called The Celestial Intelligencer, which is the chunkiest section of book 1 of the Magus. So all that and more when we return. We'll be right back. Hey, little witches! It's finally here. Our debut album, Welcome to the Neighborhood, The Magnolia Street Sessions Volume 1, is out and available for download and streaming now. Inspired by the magic and mystery of practical magic, this album is more than just a collection of songs. It's a spellbinding experience.
We've poured our hearts into each track, blending witchy vibes, soulful melodies, and magical touches that we know would be Owens approved. And now we're ready to share it with you, our incredible community. Every note, every word is crafted with the intention to transport you to Magnolia Street.
You can listen to it wherever you get your music. Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, you name it.
And the best part, you can support us directly by purchasing the digital album on Bandcamp right now. Head over to www.thestinasofmagnoliastreet.bandcamp.com and experience the magic.
So whether you're lighting candles, brewing tea, or just soaking in the magic of the season, we hope this album will be your perfect soundtrack, and we can't wait for you to hear it.
At that house on Magnolia Street.
You're listening to the Magnolia Street podcast.
Do we want to do a card pull, or do we want to just jump right in?
I'm good jumping right in because I'm kind of like in it.
Same. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. Pull your own cards.
Yeah, do yourself. All right. This week, we're going to just jump right into the next bit here. So welcome back. We're now entering part 3 of book 1 of the Magus. And this part's called the Celestial Intelligencer, which is the biggest and densest section of this book. This is where Barrett really fuses astrology and angelology and talismanic magic. These chapters show how the entire cosmos was a script for magic. Numbers, stars, planets, and the moon all contributing to a divine language. Talismans, images, seals, and words were not superstitions, but tools for working with celestial law. So here we go. Ready? We're going to dive into part 3, the Celestial Intelligencer. So chapter 1. This is titled Of the Four Elements and Their Natural Qualities. This chapter sets the stage by reminding us that everything from stones to stars to even our own bodies arise from the 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth. Interesting, no mention of spirit here.
No mention of spirit. Okay.
I don't know if that was more of like a Wiccan thing when Gerald Gardner kind of reworked everything.
It might have been an addition because this
Right.
is like it was first Agrippa and then Francis Barrett culminated everything. And then at the beginning of the episode, it did say that it influenced modern day
Mm.
Wicca.
There
So,
you
yeah,
go.
maybe.
There you go. But their unique qualities mingle to shape all natural phenomena, and by learning their interplay, the magician gains the first key to unlocking both nature's secrets and the celestial powers above. Again, all of these chapters are pretty much very in depth, so this is just an overview. I think at some point we're gonna have to deep dive on all of these chapters individually and really kind of learn what the ins and outs of all this.
Hmm.
Moving on to chapter 2, this is titled Of the Properties and Wonderful Nature of Fire and Earth. This chapter takes a closer look at two of the four elements, fire and earth. Here, Barrett explains the extremes. Fire, the divine spark that purifies and transforms, and earth, the weighty matrix that grounds and sustains. Opposites, though they are, both are essential. Fire gives life its motion, while earth gives it form. Magic, he reminds us, lives in their balance.
I want to say that it's interesting that he pairs these two together, fire and earth, whereas like to me, like fire and air maybe because air is just everywhere. It's
Oxygen
more
and it
encompassing.
feeds the fire.
Right, but then thinking of it in like the compass, maybe that's the polarity of it. Like fire is the south and earth is the north, and then the next two in this next chapter you'll tell us about east and
Right.
west. I could see it organized that way.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure what his reasoning is for organizing it this way. Maybe once we deep dive on the actual book, maybe it'll explain better or more. But yeah, that is an interesting observation. Moving on to chapter 3, this one now focuses, this is called Of the Water and Air. So this chapter examines the two remaining elements, water and air. Together, water and air represent connection and circulation. Water binds and nourishes below, while air distributes and animates above. The magician must learn how these elements transport both visible and invisible powers, for they are the chief agents of exchange between heaven and earth. Barrett pairs water and air, water as the fertile mother of life, binding and nourishing, and air as the invisible messenger, carrying breath, voice, and celestial influence. Together, they show how the elements serve as bridges, not just between each other, but between the earthly and the divine. Yeah, I guess that would make sense, like if water and air represent connection and circulation, maybe that makes more sense to pair those two that way. Chapter 4, this is titled Of Compound or Mixed Bodies, in what manner they relate to the elements, and how the elements relate to the souls, senses, and dispositions of men.
Oh.
I think that a chapter name is longer than the explanation here.
Yeah.
So this chapter shows how the four elements, earth, water, air, and fire, combine to form complex bodies such as stones, metals, plants, animals, humors. We've talked about the humors before on this podcast, and even our thoughts and senses. In each case, one element dominates, shaping its nature, and together they reveal the universe as a grand harmony of elemental correspondences. I'm sure there's a lot more in depth when we actually read that chapter.
I really like that last sentence. They reveal the universe as a grand harmony of elemental correspondences.
Right.
How cool. There used to be a game. I don't know if it was for phone or iPad called like Alchemy or something.
Was there?
And you started off with the basic elements and you would drag different things together and like you get this big web of creation of like different how everything comes from the four elements, which is really cool.
That's so cool. I've never heard of that game. You have to send me that.
This was ages. This could have been like 15 years ago.
Oh my God.
I'll look it up. I'll see if it's still a thing.
I missed the boat on that one, but that sounds really freaking cool. I wish I could see like a visual like representation of what you're talking about because I'm like, I never heard of that before. That's really neat. Moving on to chapter 5. This chapter's titled That the Elements Are in the Heavens, in the Stars, in Devils, Angels, Intelligences, and lastly in God Himself.
I want to know what you would rename a chapter like this, because Jesus Christ.
These are very long chapters.
Yes.
I don't know why these are like emo song names.
This is your away message on Messenger.
This is like the title of any Coheed and Cambria album.
Exactly, volume 2.
So in this chapter, this expands the scope of the elements beyond the earthly realm, showing how earth, air, fire, and water exist in all levels of creation, in the heavens, in the stars and the planets, in devils and infernal realms, realms, in angels and intelligences, and in God. Barrett elevates the elements from earthly matter to divine principles, showing how they exist and how those elements are not only the foundation of nature, but also the universal keys that bind heaven and earth together. So then moving on to chapter 6, this is titled That the Wisdom of God Works by the Medium of Second Causes. And in this chapter, this explains how God's wisdom flows into the world through layers of mediation rather than acting directly in most cases. And there's 3 main principles here: the chain of causation, the harmony of causes, and the miracles versus natural effects. And here Barrett reminds us that magic works because creation itself is a chain of causes flowing from God through angels, stars, and elements into the world. Nature's hidden virtues are divine signatures, while miracles occur when God acts outside of this chain. There was a lot more about all of these, but I didn't include them because it was so long.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember the other week I told you Aaron watched Dogma for the first time?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember why all that shit happens? It's because
No.
Alanis, God, has a thing for skee ball. At the very beginning, they're at Coney Island. Coney Island or Ashbury? Asbury?
Oh, Asbury Park?
Yeah, they're on some boardwalk.
Yeah, it's probably Asbury Park because Kevin Smith is from New Jersey.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
God's acting outside this chain and then gets taken over. He gets knocked out by these demons. And then he's put into a coma.
Oh my God.
And then Jay and Silent Bob have to help save the world.
It's been a minute since I've seen that movie. I actually have that on DVD. Where did you watch it? Is it on demand?
No, we had to pirate it.
Okay, because I was going to say, yeah, you're right. Because I think Schmarvy Schmeinstein, don't want to say his name, don't want to give him power, but apparently he owns the rights to that movie. And it's been pulled from a lot of streaming platforms. And also, I don't even think you can purchase it on Amazon anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I bought that on DVD ages ago.
It's so good.
Ages ago. Good movie. Yeah. I think we left off on chapter 7. This one's titled Of the Spirit of the World. And in this chapter, this introduces the idea of the spirit of the, quote, the spirit of the world, also called the quintessence, which acts as the hidden medium binding soul and matter together. So the role of the spirit, the distribution of power, the magical importance, and alchemy connection are all concepts that he discusses within this chapter. In essence, the world spirit is the invisible life force of creation, diffused everywhere, and the key to why magic and alchemy work. Quintessence links heaven and earth. It is the life breath of nature, carried by the stars into every stone and herb, and it explains how both natural magic and alchemy channel hidden powers. Moving on to chapter 8. This is titled Of the Seals and Characters Impressed by Celestials Upon Natural Things. And this chapter explains how the stars impress their unique signatures upon earthly matter. The concepts in this chapter are celestial impressions, nature of characters, transmission of power, and human discovery. In short, the universe is stamped with celestial signatures, and reading them reveals how to draw down heavenly virtues into earthly magic. Every star leaves a mark, an invisible seal, on stones, plants, and creatures. By recognizing these natural, quote, signatures, magicians learn how to unlock celestial virtues hidden within the world around us. Moving on to chapter 9. This is titled Treating of the Virtue and Efficacy of Perfumes. This chapter explores how perfumes and fumes act as conduits between the celestial and earthly realms. In essence, perfumes were seen as powerful magical tools capable of raising spirits, shaping perception, and consecrating instruments when timed with celestial movements. The Magus reveals how perfumes and fumes carry the celestial power, like the right incense can summon spirits, shift the air itself, or even protect us. Like, you know how we sage before, calling the quarters or lighting some incense, anything that has having to do with the air, altering the air to prepare for ritual.
Even throwing a little bit of rosemary in your bonfire to keep those mosquitoes away. Even putting a little bit of Lysol around here and there. You're getting rid of the nasty germies.
Right.
We considered this.
Or making a nice little moxibustion with some mugwort, right?
There you go. Your simmer pot.
Right. Yeah. So in this chapter, Barrett shows us why fragrance is was central to ancient magic, and even is central to a lot of practitioners today, right?
Dude, just putting on a candle, like this morning, I got my fall scents and my wax warmer. It made me feel so much more productive, getting so much done, opening the windows.
Yes.
I like chapter 9. Okay.
Yo, any basic bitch that loves like a good fall candle, chapter 9 is your bag.
For you.
Yeah. This rundown is perfect. It's like little bite-sized morsels, just giving you the quick, easy Cliff Notes version of
You'd
each chapter.
never know. Like, you'd
Right.
look at the cover of the Magus and be like, whatever.
Yeah.
To know that there's this little nugget in here,
About
might read it. Might be
perfumes
cute
and
and read it.
scents.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then moving on to chapter 10, this is titled, Of the Composition of Some Perfumes Appropriated to the Seven Planets. So this chapter, it kind of expands on the ideas of perfumes, but this chapter provides recipes for planetary perfumes, each designed to attract or repel the influence of a particular celestial body. Each planet has herbs, resins, woods, think your frankincense and myrrh resins, right? Dragon's blood, or woods, or in even animal parts sacred to it, which, when burned together, releases its virtues. This chapter dives into recipes of the planetary incense and the perfumes crafted from all of those things, the herbs, the resins, and animal parts, and how to use those to channel celestial powers. It shows how magicians aligned fragrance with the stars to bring planets into their rituals. This chapter also gives us specifics as to which herbs and resins correspond with their designated planets. Barrett emphasizes that intention and imagination are as important as the ingredients. Without the operator's focused will, no suffumigation, ring, or talisman will work. Intent is important when working with these correspondences and these scents, these perfumes. Right?
This book is free to read, free to download all of this information. This might even be fun to pull from every now and then, knowing what's in these chapters. Like, we do so many topics.
Yeah.
And it would be cool to see what the Magus is. It feels like so esoteric. That's one of our sources.
Who knew? It's not really what Alice told it what it was.
Right. Exactly. Agreed.
Right. So moving on to chapter 11. This is titled Of the Composition and Magic Virtue of Rings, right? We kind of touched earlier before on the idea of rings, like the rings, I'm talking the rings you wear on your fingers, right? In this chapter, it explores how rings are used as talismanic tools capable of shaping the wearer's spirit, emotions, and fortune. It uncovers the magical heritage of rings, crafted with planetary timing, stones, herbs, and seals. They were said to protect, empower, or even conceal the wearer. From Solomon's protective charms to Gyges' infamous ring of invisibility, history brims with their wonders. Barrett discusses the influence of rings, the method of making, complete with correspondences of metals, stones, and herbs, and also how to inscribe and consecrate. He also gives some historical examples, and guess whose name appears on this podcast yet again? We just talked about him.
Who?
Josephus!
Josephus!
We just talked about him, right?
Guess who's back?
Back again.
Josephus.
Exactly.
Cool.
So I'm wondering if we deep dive into this chapter a little more, if we'll see anything, that can tie into the whole practical magic, Jimmy's ring, right? Chapter 12, moving on. This is titled That the Passions of the Mind Are Assisted by Celestials. And this chapter examines how human emotions and mental states like love, fear, hope, and imagination are not just personal, but channels for celestial influence. In essence, the mind is a mediator, bridging celestial and earthly forces through emotion, belief, and imagination. So some key points of this chapter are how our thoughts and passions align us with the heavens, the power of imagination, faith and intention, and doubt as a weakness. Barrett says that distrust breaks the link between mind and heaven, dispersing the energy that would otherwise flow into an operation. So basically, like how Sally kind of like second guesses her magic, like she kind of is put off by her own magic, and then inherently that's why her spells always get fucked up.
Yeah.
Because that distrust between your inner knowing, like your imagination, your power of thought, your connection with your higher being, the heavens.
The amount of times I have been like, why did I not trust my gut? Why didn't I trust this intuition?
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
Yep. Well, chapter 12 is right up your alley then.
That's right.
It'll help you out with that, because he's going to tell you, how all that stuff kind of connects, how our thoughts and passions connect us with that higher sense of self in the heavens, and I guess how to connect that with your intention and make it all work together as one cohesive unit. All right, so then moving on now to to chapter 13. This is titled How Man's Mind May Be Joined with the Mind of Intelligence and Celestials. So this chapter develops the idea of the mind as a cosmic bridge, showing how human thought can align with the higher intelligences and celestial powers. At its core, this chapter shows the soul's passion uniting with the star's movement, giving rise to spells, to images, and words charged with living force. This chapter teaches that when passion and imagination burn brightly, the human mind links with the stars and intelligences themselves. Magic made in those moments, talismans, words, and gestures, carries the echo of heaven, empowered by the magician's own soul. So it's kind of like a well-oiled machine, right? You have to have the right intentions and the right frame of thinking in order for all the stuff that you're trying to make happen in your magic. It all needs to be in alignment with one another for it to work successfully. So then moving on to chapter 14. This is titled Shewing the Necessity of Mathematical Knowledge. This is where I'm a trash witch in this area because I'm a horrible mathematician. So
but shooing, like shoo, no math for me.
Is that what it means?
Necessity.
Okay, so this chapter argues that mathematics is the backbone of magic.
Dang.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, all right, I'm fucked here in this department. Without it, practitioners labor in vain. Barrett makes clear that mathematics is not optional, but essential for true magical practice, as it connects earthly works to celestial order.
Who's this guy anyway? What are his credentials?
Yeah. Think about like when you're looking at a natal chart and you're calculating astrological degrees and trines and, you know, this and that, planetary houses, how it corresponds with this, that, and the other thing, and the constellation and the moon and what house, all of that. If you're using astrology as the backbone of like your practice, then maybe you should be well versed in mathematics. So this chapter proclaims that numbers are the hidden architecture of creation. To work true magic, one must master mathematics, for it is through number, harmony, and proportion that celestial powers flow into earthly forms. So if you're into the angel numbers, or if you're into like numerology, sequence of numbers, like certain pattern recognition, maybe that all has to do with this chapter. Like we'll deep dive on it eventually, but those off the cuff, those are like kinds of like the things that I'm thinking when he's talking about using mathematics. So moving on to chapter 15. This is titled The Great Virtues of Numbers, as well in natural things as in supernatural. These titles, man. So this chapter explores the mystical power of numbers, revered by both philosophers and church fathers alike. In short, numbers are bridges between the divine, celestial, and human worlds, shaping not just the cosmos, but also our very own being. This chapter reveals that numbers are sacred keys connecting heaven, earth, and humanity. Far more than arithmetic, they encode divine mysteries, echoed in scriptures, the Kabbalah, and the very structure of our own souls and bodies. And then moving on to chapter 16, this is called Of the Scale of Unity. And here's where he's going to start talking about the numbers, like specifically, okay?
Oh, man.
He goes through all the numbers. So chapter 16 starts with the numbers, and this is the title of this chapter is Of the Scale of Unity, and this chapter centers on unity, specifically the number 1, okay? 1 is the lowliest number.
Nice.
The foundation of all numbers and the archetype of divine oneness. Unity, then, is not only mathematical, but also divine, natural, and mystical, the seed of all multiplicity and the goal of all return. This chapter celebrates unity as the sacred origin of all things, from God to nature to the human body. The number 1 reveals the deep truth that all multiplicity flows from and yearns to return to it, the one. Now, moving on to chapter 17 through 26. I was gonna do all of these individual, but I said, fuck nah, I ain't doing that. So
Thanks.
chapter 17 through 26, these are all the mystical numbers, okay? And these chapters cover numbers 2 through 12. Okay. So after establishing unity, number 1, as the root of all being, chapter 17 through 26 explore the mystical language of numbers as it explores numbers 2 through 12. From duality and harmony to the sacred 7 and the perfect 12, each number reveals a cosmic principle. To the magicians and philosophers, numbers were not just math. They were keys to unlocking divine order and channeling it into the material world. Numbers are seen not as an abstract math, but as living symbols that reveal divine order and can be harnessed in magic and talismanic practice. practices.
Is there any link between these and like your life path number? Are they the
That's a
same
good
thing?
question. I am not exactly sure, but I think I was in life path 8. I didn't look too far into it, but just going off the cuff here, looking from 2 to 12, it kind of gives you the keyword. Like, I guess if you can surmise each number at just like a quick glance, give it like a quick correspondence, this is the key. So number 2 is for duality. Number 3, harmony and trinity. 4, stability and the elements. Okay, so these are kind of like more giving the tarot to me. Because like when you pull 2 in a tarot reading, it's like duality, partnership. When you pull a 3, it signifies that harmony in the trinity. 4 is more stability and the elements, right? Earth, air, fire, water, or you have the pentacles, wands, you know, the suits of the tarot. And 5, it's humanity and the senses. 6 is the perfection of work. 7, sacred mystery. 8, regeneration and justice. I'm thinking like 8, like the infinity symbol, regeneration, like it keeps going and going. 9 is fulfillment and finality. 10 is totality. 11 is sin and excess. 12 is the number of perfection in divine order.
Barrett emphasizes that these numbers from the scales of correspondence, each linked to divine names, angelic orders, planetary forces, metals, stones, virtues, vices, and even punishments. By understanding these numeric harmonies, magicians can align their work with the fabric of creation. So the next chapter is 27, and this is titled Of the Notes of the Hebrews and Chaldeans, and Other Notes of Magicians. In this chapter, we discover how Hebrew, Chaldean, is that it?
I think it's Chaldean.
Chaldean. Okay, Chaldean. Sorry. Chaldean.
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 And magical alphabets weren't just writing systems, they were channels of divine power. This channel shifts from numbers to symbols and characters, explaining how different traditions encode divine and magical knowledge. Every letter and sigil has a key to the cosmos, carved in amulets and talismans to align the human with celestial law. So it covers sacred alphabets, magical notations like figures and seals and encryptic marks, and then there's practical uses. It covers the transmission of power. Just as numbers reveal hidden order, these characters operate as a key to divine mysteries, a symbolic shorthand for engaging with the unseen world. In short, this chapter establishes that letters and signs function as magical technology, sacred tools that capture and direct celestial forces. So like any of those sigils you see painted on the ground or in a movie on the walls,
like runes.
Runes, yeah. Exactly.
Or our secret code key that we made in like 8th grade so the teacher couldn't read your notes.
Right.
Did that.
Did they find out the key? Did they ever read your notes?
No, they didn't know what the fuck. They would open the note and be like, detention. Because they couldn't embarrass us in front of the class and read our notes, so they just gave us detention because they're like, well, fuck this kid.
Damn, you baddie. You baddie. Chapter 28 is titled The Magic Tables of the Planets. This chapter introduces planetary, quote, magic tables or grids of numbers and characters tied to each planet. Each table holds divine names, intelligences, and spirits, creating a symbolic map for talismanic work. These tables act as cosmic signatures, channeling celestial forces into physical instruments like amulets and seals. So, like, the ancients built an entire system of these planetary tables, numerical and symbolic keys designed to summon the powers of Jupiter, Saturn, even beyond into the earthly realm. Chapter 29 is Observations of the Celestial and Magical Work. Magical operations must align with the heavens. The magician watches planetary positions, aspects, and especially the moon, since it carries and transmits celestial influences. Mercury is also vital as the messenger. Friendly aspects being success, hostile ones like squares or oppositions can ruin the work. So timing here in this chapter, I guess it says it. Timing is everything. The magician must craft talismans when planets and the moon align favorably, or else risk failure. We do this today in a similar fashion.
I was gonna say, we do to an extent, but then like also I'm thinking like this Francis Barrett guy I don't think he'd take well to trash wishes.
No, I don't think so. You have to be dedicated. You have to be
Yeah.
chaste. You have to
Mhm.
be orderly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not Sally and Jillian
No, not
at all.
Justina and Christina of Magnolia Street.
Not at all. No gremlin energy allowed here.
No, apparently
No.
not. Chapter 30 is titled When the Planets Are Most Powerful. Planets are strongest when in their dignities. House, exaltation, triplicity, term, or face, especially when placed in angular houses, like ascendant or midheaven. The moon is potent when not eclipsed, combust, or hindered by malefics. Fortune lies in choosing the right celestial, quote, weather. So, like, in simplified, each planet has its season of power, and the moon is this linchpin. Choose her phase and aspects wisely. This is when your talisman's going to thrive more than most. Chapter 31, the fixed stars and their natures. Fixed stars carry planetary qualities. Their influence is strengthened when the planets conjoin them. Their nature can be known by color. Red stars are martial, golden are solar, white are Venusian, etc. Notable stars like Algol, Aldebaran, Sirius, and Regulus each bring direct gifts or danger. So, like beyond planets, the fixed stars blaze with hidden powers, each a celestial beacon that can magnify or twist a magician's work. The next chapter, 32, the sun, moon, in magic. The sun is the heart of the cosmos, source of vitality, and image of divine light. The moon gathers planetary rays and pours them into the earth, making her the great intermediary. All celestial work depends on her mediation as she delivers the virtues of higher power into matter. The sun, of course, gives life, but the moon makes it tangible. She is the cosmic translator, weaving heaven's light into earth's fabric. Ooh, that was beautiful.
He's a poet.
He is. So now we're getting into some mansions. Said at the beginning, I don't know what these mansions are. Chapter 33 covers them, and it's titled The 28 Mansions of the Moon. The moon's monthly journey divides the zodiac into 28 mansions, each carrying its own virtue: prosperity, discord, health, imprisonment, harvests, love, or revenge. Each mansion can be used for talismanic images or rituals tailored to its influence. As the moon walks her 28 mansions, each doorway offers a different spell, from sowing love to destroying enemies. Chapter 34 is titled Artificial Things Receiving Celestial Virtue. Not only natural things, but artificial ones like rings, seals, images can absorb celestial influence, like when we place our stones out to absorb, or cleanse our crystals and our rocks or our moon water. These absorb celestial influences when crafted under the right stars. The choice of material or form matters, as congruence between matter, figure, and celestial signals makes the instrument receptive. Even human-made things, if crafted in harmony with the heavens, can become vessels of celestial power. Chapter 35, Images of the Zodiac. Each zodiac sign, when engraved in proper timing, can heal disease, inspire eloquence, cure fevers, or drive out poisons. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius protect against cold illnesses. Girl, I need you. I'm catching a cold.
Oh no.
Cancer and Pisces against heat and poison. Scorpio provokes lust, but also wards off venom. So zodiac images carved under the right stars heal the body and soul, turning the wheel of the heaven into medicine. And then smushing chapters 36 through 42 together, these are all individual chapters. They're the planetary images. So this is Saturn through the moon. Each planet has a specific image as described. So Saturn, this is connected with old men with scythes or dragons for longevity, hidden knowledge or power. Justina's planet, Jupiter, kings or crowned men for wealth, honors, religious life, or benevolence. There's Mars for warriors, soldiers, for courage, domination, fear, and martial power. The Sun, kings and queens of radiant figures for victory, health, honor, and prosperity. Venus connected with maidens, lovers, or bird-headed women for love, beauty, favor, and joy. Mercury, young men with rods, serpents, or wings for eloquence, knowledge, and cunning. Then
I'm wondering if he's delving into like Egyptian mythology, like with the bird-headed
with the
woman.
bird. Yeah. The moon is for travelers or crowned women with serpents, or for fertility, protection, and fruitfulness. Each planet gifted humanity with likenesses. Saturn's grim sages, Jupiter's radiant kings, Mars's fierce warriors, Venus's lovers, all tools to channel their virtues into talismans. There's a few more on here. Chapter 43, images of the dragon's head and tail. The moon's nodes were also imagined. The head, your ascendant node for fortune, success, depicted as a serpent with a hawk's head. The tail, which is your descendant node, for misfortune, illness, or evil geniuses. This makes me think of your north and south nodes.
Mm-hmm.
Your south node, mine is in Leo, which I think your south node represents your past life's struggle, something you really yearned for. And in this life, you have to move past that and concentrate more on your north node. So I take that as like my Leo being my south node. I always crave validation. My ego can get really out of hand and I have to pull it back and remind myself that's not this lifetime. You have to really work on dialing that down.
Yeah.
So that's
I feel like I have the same struggles.
I want to do. I wrote down your stuff. I need to look at your chart.
Yeah. And then is the north node like your karmic debt or like the karmic?
I think that's what you should be working toward aspiring in this lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it sounds like the dragon's head and the tail is basically in a nutshell the north and the south node. The head is the north and the tail is the south. That
sounds like it. Yeah. Chapter 44, images of the mansions of the moon. Each mansion was given a specific image, material, and perfume. Kings in silver, lovers in wax, lions in gold, serpents in copper. These talismans were used for everything from reconciliation and childbirth to revenge and destruction. The moon's 28 mansions each had their own seal and scent, talismans forged from love, war, harvest, or ruin. Chapter 45, human imprecations and ascending to the intelligible world. Words and imprecations hold natural power as human speech resonates with celestial harmonies. Man's mind, when aligned, can rise through the chain of being, soul, star, intelligence toward God. Magic works by these natural sympathies, not by breaking nature. So words are not empty here. They vibrate through nature's chain, lifting the soul into harmony with stars, spirits, and God.
So, in essence, words have power.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And also, I'm wondering if this chapter dives into, it says here they vibrate through nature's chain. I'm wondering if it touches at all on, I don't know if he went into like any kind of like Eastern philosophy. I don't know if that was like a thing back then, but like, you know how when you meditate and you do the om and the vibration of like the om is like supposed to be really enlightening and like
aligning.
Exactly. I'm wondering if he gets into that at all.
I thought you were going to say, shit, I don't know what I thought you were going to say. We're talking about the Kabbalah. Oh God, it just left me. I'm sorry.
It'll come back.
I'll go. We're on the last chapter now, chapter 46, conclusion of talismanic magic. The book closes with the key of practice. Success depends on the knowledge of astrology, precise timing, and aligning talismans with the heavens. Examples are given for making someone fortunate, chasing away pests, gaining wealth, or stirring love, all through images buried, joined, or carried at the right astrological moment. Magic, then, is the art of aligning human desire with the celestial law, executed through ritual precision. The key to talismanic magic is timing. Make your images when the heaven smiles, and they will carry fortune, love, and power.
That's book 1 in a nutshell. We're going to take another break right here. And when we come back, we're going to dive into book 2. And book 2, it's all about magnetism. We're going to touch on sympathetic medicines a little bit. He does talk a little bit about like witchcraft and Satan's power in this next book.
Ooh.
So there might be a little more stuff in there geared to maybe stuff that Alice might have hinted toward or talked about.
So there's the chance.
So there could be a chance that maybe some of the stuff in this book aligns with what she made this book out to be in the novels. Okay. And then also we're going to talk about the Kabbalah and ceremonial magic.
I know what I wanted to tell you. The chapter 45 we're talking about, you were saying words have magic. I was thinking, and then you said Kabbalah. I was like, oh, abracadabra. I wonder if that's covered in this chapter.
Oh, yeah, you might be right. Because abracadabra was also used as kind of like a talisman or charm, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then also we're going to talk about Trithemius of Spanheim and the Biographia Antiqua, where he kind of like gives this whole like list of, he does a whole roll call of who he stole all this material from.
All right.
Yeah. And then, of course, pop culture. What's an episode of Magnolia Street without some pop culture? So we're gonna get into all that and more. Sit right there. We'll be right back. Hey, little witches. The Stinas here. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you would know how much we love using the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle deck by Grounded by the Moon.
And now we want to share the magic of Grounded by the Moon with you, our listeners. Joseph Benitez Egerton, the creator behind Grounded by the Moon, would like to offer this very special 10% off discount to all who wish to experience the magic of his Practical Magic themed tarot and oracle decks.
But that's not all. He also creates other divination tools like tarot workbooks, deck bags and altar cloths, pendulum kits, oil blends, cleansing sprays, smoke wands, teas, and ritual kits.
And let's not forget about his custom handcrafted, all-natural soy candles, where every candle is hand-poured and personally infused and charged under the light of the moon. They even come with a crystal.
And did we mention all of the ingredients in the candles are ethically sourced?
All of Joseph's offerings are just so magical. So go visit groundedbythemoon.com and use the coupon code Magnolia Magic for 10% off your entire order at checkout.
That's MAGNOLIA MAGIC. So get your discount today. Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to Magnolia Street Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. This is after our second ad break?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just have a little more.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're going to start on book 2, but before we start on that, I forgot to go into the origins of the word Magus because I was thinking, why did he name the book the Magus? Like, what is the word Magus? So I guess now is a good time, if any, to explain that real quickly. The name Magus has multiple origins, but primarily signifies a, quote, wise one or magician, like magi, magician. I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
It stems from the old Persian word magu and the Greek word magos, which were used for priests, learned individuals of ancient Persian cultures, particularly in Zoroastrianism. The term also refers to the 3 wise men from the East in the biblical account of Jesus' birth, a group associated with wisdom, astrology, and spiritual significance.
I love etymology. Is that what it's called? The origin of words. I like that.
Yep. And now, without further ado, we're gonna hop right into book number 2. So, we're gonna start with magnetism. That is the first.
You gotta give it its
magnetism,
like sparkle.
Magnetism. David Blaine.
Yes.
You can't fake a levitation,
but you can fake an exorcism. You
can fake a seizure. You can't fake levitation, Holmes. Okay.
A
little loopy. It's past our normal recording hours. It's always fun recording now because we always get like
the giggles.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm never upset about it because it's always a lot of fun, even though I'm tired as fuck.
Magnetize me. Let's go.
All right. So magnetism, book 2. In the Magus, book number 2, Francis Barrett turns to magnetism, the mysterious force of attraction binding body, spirit, and imagination. Drawing on Paracelsus and von Helmont, he explains sympathetic cures like the weapon salve, where a wound heals by treating the weapon that caused it, the role of the vital spirit in blood, and the immense power of imagination to project influence across distance. Witchcraft, necromancy, and miracles alike are traced to this same faculty, natural, God-given, but often misused. For Barrett, magnetism is not superstition nor devilry, but a divine science showing how man, as the image of God, wields hidden powers through sympathy, imagination, and faith. Do you think Sally and Jillian still have that, or do you think Jillian still has that pocket knife that they use to cut their palms on their scars?
I feel like she used it and then just dropped it on the roof. It's in the gutter.
That was her boyfriend's, right? She's like, honey, can I borrow your pocket knife? So, I don't know. Do you think she ever stole it? No? All right.
I think her brain is just whoop on to the next thing.
But I was just curious because this is saying that to cure the wound, you treat the weapon that caused it. So I don't know if they, ever saved that weapon that caused their little blood pact.
They're never finding. No body, no crime. No weapon, no time.
All right, let's get into the introduction. So Barrett frames this treatise as a collection of the, quote, best treasures of magnetic knowledge, distilled from Paracelsus and von Helmont. This is the second time it's saying von Helmont. I don't think we mentioned him earlier today at all, right? That name doesn't ring a bell. So I don't know. Maybe it's going to tell us who he is because I don't know who he is. Stop it.
Okay. He is a chemist and a physiologist.
So like Jungian? Are we talking like
his year? So, he was alive no, he died before the witch trials. So 1580 to 1644.
Okay.
Physiologist and physician from Brussels. Worked during the years after Paracelsus and the rise of aeotrech chemistry and is sometimes considered the founder of pneumonic chemistry.
Got it. All right. So those are Paracelsus and von Helmont, two great philosophers who advanced the ideas of sympathetic cures and magnetic forces. This section promises to reveal the hidden science of sympathy, antipathy, and magnetic cures, secrets of attraction that link the natural and the occult. So let's get into that was just the introduction. So let's get into chapter 1, titled The Magnetic or Attractive Power. So this opening chapter seeks to prove that magnetic attraction or action at a distance is real using natural examples that defy ordinary explanation. In this chapter, magnetism is revealed through everyday wonders, like wine that stirs when vines flower, ale that responds to distant barley, and unborn children marked by a mother's cravings. These aren't superstitions, but signs of a universal spirit of attraction, proof that nature's hidden sympathies connect distant things in mysterious but lawful ways. The chapter concludes by warning against dismissing these marvels as diabolical. They are natural gifts from the Creator, misunderstood only because human knowledge is limited.
I saw on a TikTok, won't lie, I was going to say I read it somewhere. I did not. But if you want to feel magnetic walking into a room, when you enter that room, picture grabbing the four corners of the room one by one and pulling them into your pocket. And that's supposed to be the secret of magnetism. So try it out.
Good to know. I don't know. Does that work if you don't have the confidence?
Maybe it's a good practice in confidence because it's just you. It's just you have that power. You're controlling the room. You're holding the strings. Right.
And I'm sure a lot of that also has to do with like your fashion choices. Are you making a bold statement when you're walking into that room? Like, you know?
Mm-hmm. It would be an even greater feat of magnetism if you were just plain Jane or yourself or wearing what you felt comfy, but you still noticed the people coming to you and, interacting with you in that way when you're not really standing out a whole lot.
I like that. Moving on to chapter 2, this is called Of Sympathetic Medicines. This chapter explores the mysterious practice of sympathetic healing, curing wounds at a distance without touching the injured part directly. It explains how wounds were once healed without touching them through, quote, sympathetic medicines. A cloth stained with blood would be treated and the wound healed at a distance. So the cloth would be treated, not the wound, right?
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't either. But you said that Caitlin does Reiki, or she does distance Reiki, right? Isn't that kind of like the same thing? Like you're not really treating anything physically, like a piece of cloth that she has tied to the person who she's treating across the world or wherever she's treating them. It's just her and the person, and I guess she's like channeling their energy from a distance, but it's kind of like maybe the same concept, because she is at a distance from whoever she is treating, right?
That's true. Nobody's coming in with gaping wounds, though. She'd send, well, she's a nurse, so she could probably take care of it anyway. But maybe in this case, like, say the person had an injury and that is their blood. They've since healed up, but are still not on their feet. And this person uses it to help like Reiki, like speed up the process of healing.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think you want to do this in place of actual medical attention is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, maybe do this as a supplement to your seeking medical attention, right? And see if it works. I don't know.
I don't know.
It is very interesting. Far from superstition, the author insists the power lies not in the stars, but in the healer's focused intention, especially when guided by charity. It also references a book from 1693 that described the, quote, sympathetical powder of Edricius Moines of Ibero, said to heal wounds without direct application.
Moines.
Now, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole on that book at some other point. Let me highlight that because I'm like, what is that book now? So sympathy in medicine, like a mother's influence on her unborn child, shows that nature's hidden bonds are directed by the mind as much as by matter.
And
So
blood. You're of your mother's blood, and her wounds get passed on to you, and so forth. And
right,
her
and they
mother's.
also do say, like, if you're a twin and you're in utero together, like, you do share that kind of bond, or any sibling for that matter.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, yes, if you're connected to somebody in that way, you might feel something from across, if they're not living close to you, you might feel things that they feel, the same way in Sally and Jillian did.
Yeah.
Moving on to chapter 3, Powder of Sympathy, Armory, Ungent, and C. So this chapter presents a collection of remarkable cures and experiments that rely on the principles of magnetism, sympathy, and antipathy. It emphasizes that the hidden virtues of nature, though often doubted by rationalists, were created by God for the healing of mankind, and can be discovered through Kabbalah, alchemy, and magic. It dives into the bizarre and fascinating world of sympathetic cures, diseases drawn into dogs, wounds healed without touching, even criminals punished through their own excrement.
Oh.
There are some more specific examples when you actually read this passage,
no.
but like I didn't even get into all of it because it's a lot. So this is just Cliff Notes. At its core is the conviction that God wove hidden sympathies through all of nature, and that by using them wisely, healers could cure at a distance with magnets, powders, and even shadows. This chapter also goes into the lodestone, using the lodestone as medicine. It was believed to repel illness, sympathetic transfers of illness, everyday magnetical practices. For example, burning excrement with a red-hot poker would, by sympathy, scorch the body of the one who left it, preventing repeat offenses.
Oh no.
I guess that's the case that it was talking about as far as the criminals punished through their own excrement.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then also strange experiments. For example, the root of the Caroline thistle mixed with human mummy. I don't know what that, like a corpse.
Maybe.
A human mixed with human mummy supposedly drains another man's strength merely by standing in his shadow.
Billy Zane.
David Blaine, Billy Zane. Oh my God, that's so funny. And then that's it for chapter 3. And then moving on to chapter 4. This is titled Of the Armory, Ungent, or the Weapon Salve. This chapter explores the mysterious weapon salve, a cure using skull moss and magnetic sympathy to heal wounds at a distance. Also known as the Armory Ungent, a cure said to heal wounds without directly touching them. Its most unusual ingredient is the moss from a dead man's skull, which Van Helmont described as a kind of astral excrescence. Because this moss grows both from celestial seed and from the human mummial essence of the skull, it was believed to hold extraordinary magnetic and astral powers. I think they actually talked about skull moss on Salem the podcast. I've heard them talk about this before.
I love that. Could you imagine having like that in like a glass case? Like a skull with the moss on it, like a terrarium.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's wild. So some key points in this chapter. The first one are basically how the weapon salve works. The second point is the twofold nature of man. Basically, human beings are divided into the outer man, flesh, blood, sense, and imagination, and the inner man, soul, illuminated by divine revelations. And then the last key point in this chapter are the ecstasies and magnetic desire. Just as the inner man can be caught up into divine ecstasy, the outer man also has ecstatic powers through intense imagination and desire. At its core lies a striking belief: even our blood and imagination carry an ecstatic power, able to project our spirit outward. Just as a son's longing can carry him to his absent mother, so too can this strange ungent call the wound back into harmony, proof that magnetism runs through body and soul. So then moving on to chapter 5, this is called Of the Imaginative Power and the Magnetism of the Natural Spirits, Mummial Attraction, and Astral Sympathies.
Mummial attraction?
Yeah.
What?
So this chapter digs into the deep connection between blood, imagination, and magnetism, showing how natural spirits act at a distance. It explores the magnetic ties of blood and spirit, revealing how wounds, spirits, and even animals are bound by invisible sympathies. From sleepwalkers who move by the spirit of their blood to eagles drawn to carcasses, the lesson is clear. Attraction at a distance is natural, not diabolical. In fact, the very art of necromancy rests on these astral bonds, showing how imagination and spirit weave together the mysteries of magnetism.
And we're gonna be doing a necromancy episode, right?
Yes, we are.
Oh God.
So maybe it might be fun to deep dive into this specific chapter for that
Good
episode.
idea. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
So moving on to chapter 6. Okay, now here's where it gets into the witchcraft kind of stuff. So I guess we can kind of see what, if anything, matches up with what Alice was talking about in the
Okay.
books.
All right.
Because so far, nothing's kind of like hitting the nail on the head, right? Nothing's
Yeah.
really matching up to what she was saying. She was claiming that the Magus was in those books.
Yeah.
So chapter 6, this is just simply called Of Witchcraft. Straight into the point. So this chapter takes on the controversial subject of witchcraft, examining what part belongs to witches themselves and what belongs to Satan. It separates fact from fear. Satan is dangerous but limited, unable to kill directly. Instead, witches tap into a hidden human faculty rooted in our likeness to God that allows action at a distance through will and imagination. I guess that's hysteria, right? That's what the hysteria was. Like people thought that they were being attacked in their sleep, like spectrally. Misused, this spiritual strength becomes witchcraft. Properly understood, it reveals the mysterious magnetic powers woven into human nature itself. So a couple key points in this chapter. The first one is the two suppositions. The first supposition is that Satan is the sworn enemy of mankind and always seeks our harm. If he could kill sinners directly, he would never hesitate, but he cannot. The second
So he wants to kill, does he want to kill the sinners or does he want people to sin? So
I
he
think
can
he
get
wants
them to hell.
I think maybe he wants the witches to do his bidding, maybe. Is that what? I don't know.
That Christian line's real fuzzy.
Yeah, examining what part belongs to witches themselves and what part belongs to Satan. So I'm guessing that Barrett is claiming that some part of the witch belongs to Satan, and maybe that's the part that is doing these things, these spectral attacks on other people. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm sure if we deep dived into this specific chapter, we would get a clearer picture. But
I'm getting it now. He wants the souls, and if he could kill them himself, he would. But he cannot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then the second supposition is though Satan hates witches too, since he hates all humans, right? He protects them as his servants, never exposing them unless he's forced. So I guess if a witch is backed into a corner, like if she's being burned at the stake or brought into court to try her as a witch, and the findings are that maybe she can float, I don't know, and there's proof that she is a witch, then maybe Satan's like, okay, bitch, you're on your own. I'm not defending you here.
But what about the Essex witches we talked about? And they were like, yeah, I did it. And then the one they just left the fuck alone. And then she disappeared off the map.
Maybe that was the only lucky one that ever got away.
Right? He's like, finally, somebody didn't discredit me and my power.
Right. Maybe that's why ultimately he's like, all right, you're on your own. You can go die now. Because like if they're found guilty of being a witch, then that's his name tainted, right? Or I don't know. But like, not
I told you to keep a secret.
Exactly. All right. So yes, the key points are the two suppositions, the first and the second, which we just read, and now the second key point is the witch's power versus Satan's power. The third key point is the nature of witchly power, and then the fourth key point is magical or spiritual faculty. And here Barrett notes the word, quote, magical should not frighten us. It simply names the inward spiritual strength of man. The power is strongest in the soul, weaker in the blood and flesh, but present through the whole person. It is a natural disposition of humanity, though often perverted in witchcraft.
And I wanted to note that the magical in quotations written out has the K in it, so the Magickal, notating the practice, not like smoke and mirrors, David Blaine style magic, but magical.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll move on to chapter 7, and this chapter is called Of the Vital Spirit. NC. I don't know what N, like the sampersand and this letter C means. Not sure. But the core idea of this chapter is that it explores the vital spirit, the subtle power within flesh and blood that animates the outward man, flesh, blood, and bone. It is the same force present in seed that shapes the human form and guides development, remaining with the body until the life ends. Even after a violent death, traces of this spirit linger in the corpse, but in a natural death, it departs fully. Though its fuller powers lie dormant since the fall, traces remain in every human, hinting at the soul's hidden capacity for natural magic and the bridge it forms between spirit and matter. So some of the key points in this chapter are there are two kinds of spirit. The first one is implanted, or the mummial spirit, innate, bound to the body, and still faintly present in corpses slain by violence. Then there's the inflowing or acquired spirit. This comes from outside influences, air, stars, nourishment, and is usually divided into natural, vital, and animal spirits. Then the next key point is the soul and its command. The soul, as a purely spiritual essence, cannot directly move bones, flesh, or blood without this vital spirit as a mediator. The vital spirit acts as a bridge. The soul's command flows into it and through it, and the body is animated. And then the last key point is the dormant power. This magical motive faculty, the soul's hidden power to stir the spirit, is now largely dormant in humankind since the fall of Adam.
Yo, this is intense.
Right?
This is a lot. I'm
like-
very interested, but I would need something to dumb this down for me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure this will make for excellent like stoner conversation, like smoke a couple, like take a couple
Hell
hits,
yeah.
and you'll understand the entire thing, I bet.
For the night.
Your brain would expand.
Yeah,
Right,
the next day, gone.
Exactly, right. Moving on to chapter 8, and this is titled Of the Magical Power, NC. The core idea of this chapter is that it argues that every human soul possesses a God-given magical faculty, an innate power to act at a distance through imagination and will alone, per nutum, and since the fall, this faculty lies dormant, overshadowed by the material knowledge of the external man, but it can still surface in dreams, ecstasies, and the microcosmic power of imagination. At its core, it reminds us that every soul is a reflection of divine fire, capable of stirring the latent life within all creation. And then moving on to chapter 9, this is titled Of the Exciting or Stirring Up of the Magical Virtue. This chapter explains that magical virtue isn't automatic. It must be stirred into action. Through imagination, blood, and magnetism, the hidden powers of nature awaken and extend their reach far beyond the body. The weapon salve illustrates this. It excites the blood's own healing force, sending that virtue back into the body. At its heart, the teaching is that humans possess a God-given power to project influence across space with thought and will, a mystery that defines the unique magical dominion of man. Then the last chapter, chapter 10, of the magical virtue of the soul and the mediums by which it acts. So in this chapter, the soul possesses an inherent magical power given by God that allows it to act at a distance. But this power never operates alone. It always requires a
Redacted?
I guess it was redacted.
Like the
Hold
secret
on.
ingredient?
Wait, hold on. Let me
No.
relook that up real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. It always requires a medium. So yes, it always requires a medium, such as blood, metal, or symbolic objects, and an excited imagination to channel its virtues into the world. So this final chapter of the treatise on magnetism closes with a profound lesson. The soul's magical power is real, but it never operates alone. It always requires a medium. Okay, so without this inner fire, rituals are hollow. Human blood is the most potent medium of all, linking spirit to spirit in sympathetic cures. Barrett warns that to dismiss magnetism is ignorance, but to call it... Okay, wait, hold on.
You gotta use it because I don't know if there's gonna be another opportunity.
Right. Barrett warns that to dismiss magnetism is ignorance, but to call it demonic is worse. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I thought you were gonna use your demon card.
Oh! Wasn't even thinking of that.
Too late. It's too late.
It's too late now. It came and it went. The moment is gone. But so he's saying that doing this, ignoring magnetism but calling it demonic, it robs God of his due honor. So he says true students must anchor their work in divine light, remembering that all power comes from the Creator, who alone protects us from delusion and evil spirits and demons.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I guess I could see that if you're a practitioner and you do believe that this comes from God and you are doing God's work and you're trying to explain it to somebody, if they want to dismiss it, then that's ignorance. But if they're calling it demonic, then that's worse because it's of God. So
Right.
yeah, I could see that. So
We
then,
should show this book to like a lot of the Christians and Catholics and be like, look, it says here that this power that we all have, it's just from God.
is
So
God given?
they're calling it demonic for whatever fucking reason. It's political.
Yeah, I'm doing God's work.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
getting those
political.
demons away from ya.
Me and Avi just watched last night the documentary called Hail Satan about Lucian Greaves.
Oh.
It's not even his real name. He's the founder of the Satanic Temple of Salem.
Oh, okay.
And the whole bit about that temple or that monument that they wanted to put up in, was it
Oh, I know.
Oklahoma
He's
or
kind of like
somewhere?
thin. I think he's got blonde
Yeah.
hair.
He's got like one eye
One
that's
eye.
like, yeah, not
Heterochromia.
I don't think it's heterochromia. I think
The
maybe
contact?
he might be blind in one eye. I don't know. It
Oh,
looks
shit.
like he's completely like the one eye is completely like white or lacking color
Whoa.
altogether.
Dope.
He looks like a weird dude, but it's a really interesting documentary. It's basically about that monument they wanted to put up in, I forget what state, was it Oklahoma or something?
I want to watch it.
It's free on Tubi, so
Okay.
check it out. It's an interesting watch for sure, especially if you've been to the Satanic Temple in Salem and you experienced it. Like,
Yeah.
it's fast, and you've been at the Baphomet statue. It's fascinating to like
Yeah, I'm bummed I didn't get to go.
see it on that public platform when you visited it in person. It kind of like, it's pretty cool that to make that connection.
Cool.
Yeah,
I have to check it out.
Check that out. I don't remember where I was going with that, but I guess them connecting magic and this like inner power that we all have, connecting that to like something satanic and demonic, that was all pretty much invented for political reasons.
Jesus was the best magician out there. My God, turning water to wine, walking on water, raising the dead, necromancy. Come on.
I was just listening to a past episode that we did, and we were basically saying that he was a necromancer and a zombie simultaneously.
I like that.
Right? Yeah.
What a guy.
What a guy. That Jesus.
I've never read the Kabbalah, but this has information in this book about it. I feel like it's something you should read if you're interested in theology and religion.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say it's not on my to-read list, but maybe someday. Maybe someday ChatGPT will sum it up for me. But this is a condensed summary. So this next section of the book, this is part 2, this section presents the Kabbalistic foundations of ceremonial magic, blending theology, mysticism, and practical ritual. So it has divine grounding. All true magic begins with God. The Kabbalah reveals his creative order through the 10 Sephiroth, which we've talked about here. Channels of divine emanation that shape the cosmos. The magician must live a pure life, recognize the supremacy of God, and align with his will to work safely. Again, I'm not seeing, unless, okay, this is really pulling at strings, unless because they're witches and there is a lot of God talk in this book. Was Alice like, why do you have a book about God? Like, why do you have this very dogmatic practice, book? I don't know. Like Franny was saying that. Why do you have this book?
Right.
I don't know. Then there's the power of names and angels. The divine names, especially in Hebrew, are living powers. Angels and spirits are invoked or commanded through these names, and their seals or characters serve as visible tokens of their essence. Knowledge of spirits, good and evil, celestial or infernal, is essential to distinguish allies from deceivers. Then there's the Kabbalistic techniques. Magicians employ sacred methods to derive names and symbols, permuting scriptures, calculating letters numerically, or discerning them from astrological configurations. These techniques reveal hidden correspondences between heaven and earth. Some characters, however, come only by direct revelation. Then there's ceremonial operations. With proper preparation, the magician can use divine names, seals, and symbols to bind spirits, exorcise demons,
You used it.
or petition angels. Because earlier in this episode, you had another demons thing, and I was like, okay, we're going to save them because I thought there would be a lot more.
Okay.
There wasn't.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like most of this book so thus far has been mostly about God and the using your powers for good and the benefit of mankind and being very virtuous about your practice, right? This has nothing to do with demonology at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
I love that one.
I like the bass line in that song. Doom, 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 doom.
Rituals also extend to necromancy, calling the souls of the dead, not frivolously, but for knowledge or testimony. prophecies and dreams. This section concludes with prophetic dreams as a natural form of revelation. In sleep, the soul is freed from distraction and becomes receptive to divine and angelic message. In essence, the Kabbalah section teaches that ceremonial magic is not superstition, but participation in divine order by purity of life, reverence for God, mastery of sacred names, and knowledge of spiritual hierarchies. The magician mirrors the heavenly structure and channels divine power into the world. Then there is the following section, perfection and key of the Kabbalah or ceremonial magic. And this section serves as the practical manual for ceremonial magic, showing how the theoretical knowledge of Kabbalah that we covered earlier is applied in actual ritual. It's essentially the how-to portion of Barrett's Magus. I keep wanting to say Magnus. I don't know why. Let's start with foundations and consecrations. The magician must work with purified tools and elements. We just talked about for your fall garden, you got to purify those tools in the garden, right?
Yep.
It details the making and blessing of pentacles, inscribed talismans that embody planetary or divine powers, water, fire, oil, and light, when each consecrated to act as purifiers, banishers, or carriers of spiritual force and magical spaces, circles, ground, and ritual chambers dedicated for operations. This shows how ordinary materials become charged vessels for divine or celestial influence. Then there's number 2, the instruments of power. Special force is given to the layman. A symbol layman? I don't
Like
know.
layman's terms?
Yeah, but this is saying a symbolic breastplate worn by the magician. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which embodies his authority. This is given like messianic garb. Don't they wear like stuff like that?
Knights of Templar or
Yeah.
something? Yeah.
Okay, so this embodies his authority and links him to spiritual hierarchies. All instruments like lamps, wax, wands, pentacles must be ritually consecrated before use. Then there's invocations and spirit work. This text distinguishes between evil spirits, who must be bound, constrained, and compelled to appear under divine authority, and the good spirits, who are invoked through prayer, divine names, and offerings, approached with reverence rather than force. This dual approach highlights both the dangers and the responsibilities of ceremonial magic. And then we have oracles and dreams. Dreams are treated as another pathway to revelation. Ritual methods are suggested to induce prophetic dreams or oracles, allowing spirits or angels to communicate through medium or of sleep.
He must drink a lot of mugwort juice.
So is Jack Black my guide?
Oh my god, I forgot the dream you told me about.
Then we have spirit raising practices. Finally, the book addresses the method of raising familiar or evil spirits, prescribed invocations, protective measures, and rituals of control. This material ties directly to the grimoires and necromantic traditions circulating in early modern Europe, but Barrett reframes them as structured, Kabbalistically grounded practices. So in essence, this part of the book is the ritual toolkit of the ceremonial magician, consecrating tools, creating sacred space, invoking or compelling spirits, and receiving oracles. Where earlier sections dealt with cosmology and theory, here the Magus provides the ceremonial framework that makes Kabbalistic magic a lived operative art. I guess this next chapter is called Of the Particular Composition of the Magical Circle. This part provides the protective and ritual framework for ceremonial operations, focusing on construction of the magical circle and the words of power that empower it. The circle is the magician's sacred boundary, a space of safety, authority, and divine presence. So, firstly, exorcisms, benedictions, and conjurations.
And ex-boyfriends.
And ex-boyfriends are talked about here.
Yeah.
The circle is consecrated through a sequence of exorcisms and blessings that purify the space of malign influences. Then there's divine names and conjurations, which are invoked to fortify the circle, calling on celestial and angelic guardians to protect the magician and bind hostile forces. These rituals emphasize that the magician's authority comes not from himself, but from God and the divine hierarchies he appeals to. Secondly, considerations and conjurations for every day in the week, okay? Each day of the week is assigned specific planetary rulers, angels, and spirits. Special prayers, conjurations, and ritual considerations are given for Sunday through Saturday, ensuring that the magicians work in harmony with the day's celestial powers. This aligns magical timing with astrological cycles, reinforcing the link between heaven and earth. In essence, this section shows how the magic circle is both a fortress and a temple. A fortress because it shields the magician protection from danger, and a temple because it becomes a sacred microcosm where divine forces are invited to descend. By combining consecrations with the planetary cycles of the week, the magician ensures his work is both protected and cosmically attuned.
He's got this system down pat.
It's like a science.
Right, it really is. So we're going to get into the next section of this book, book 2 of the Magus, the magic and philosophy of Trithemius and Spanheim.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. I guess we're going to find out together. So this short but influential section turns toward crystal vision, Stevie Nicks, scrying Vincent, right? As a method of communication with spirits and higher intelligences, framed with warnings and practical instructions. So Vincent did do a lot of the scrying in Rules of Magic, right?
Yes, he did.
And
apparently it said in Book of Magic, he sees the Magus in the store but doesn't buy it. He gets a scrying mirror.
That's right. That's right. So, interesting. Okay. All right. So in this section, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's three parts to this part of the book. The first one is the translator's letter to a friend of his, a young student in these occult sciences. The translator introduces the text as a guide for beginners in occult philosophy. He stresses that such knowledge should be approached with humility, patience, and moral seriousness, not as a pursuit of idle curiosity. So basically, like when you're 13 and you're like, what's this witchcraft stuff? No,
Like Vincent.
That's a no-no, right?
Yeah.
Apparently. So you're telling 13-year-old Justina she shouldn't go buy a friggin' book on voodoo or hoodoo in a random bookstore?
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I shouldn't. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. I didn't even use it. I just liked it. I thought it was like, this is cool.
It is. Yeah. We've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah. It should be approached seriously, right?
It says no posers.
No posers allowed.
Bright red letters.
In layman's terms, right? Yeah. And then also the study of magic is presented as a sacred science. What you just said, it's a science requiring purity of heart, not just technical skill. And then the second part of this book is a caution to the inexperienced in this art and a word of advice to those who would be adepts.
This should be at the beginning.
Right? Like a disclaimer.
Any warning at the beginning, please.
This is the disclaimer right here.
Yeah, these are your triggers.
I agree. Why is this at the end of the book? Okay, so in this section, this text warns novices about the danger of rash or careless practice. Without spiritual preparation, one risks delusion, obsession, or being deceived by false spirits. True adepts must cultivate discipline, prayer, and alignment with divine will. Otherwise, the art can corrupt rather than enlighten. So no dabbling, no dabblers allowed. Like, you got to take this super seriously. And then the last little bit in this section is called Of the Making of the Crystal and the Form of Preparation for a Vision. So basically, the core practical teaching describes how to prepare a crystal or glass to be used for visions, like a scrying glass. The crystal acts as a medium or mirror for contacting spirits, angels, or intelligences who can reveal wisdom. So a means of divination, right? Success depends not just on the physical preparation of the crystal, but on the inner preparation of the seer. So basically fasting, prayer, consecrations, and purity of intent. And then the crystal, once prepared, becomes a tool for divine revelation, not mere spectacle. So it's not to be used as a novelty, or some kind of parlor game or, party trick,
Yeah, which wasn't Vincent doing at the bar? The bartender was like,
sure.
get your brother out of here. He's breaking all my glasses or doing something with the lights.
Yeah. Interesting, because a lot of what we're going to talk about in the necromancy episode, a lot of the spiritual movement, a lot of that involved these charlatans and parlor tricks, and a lot of that was involved in kind of dipping the toe into the spiritual jacuzzi. Exactly. You know where I was getting with that.
Yeah. I don't know who it was. One of the guests at the inn used charlatan in their everyday speech. I don't know. I don't remember what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But they were like, you gotta watch out for charlatans.
You gotta watch out. You're gonna want to buy the snake oil from those charlatan. Right, exactly. So in essence, This section of Trithemius emphasizes that true magical vision is a union of tool and soul. The crystal provides the physical medium, the magician's purified mind and spirit provide the inner medium, and together they open the way for communication with the unseen, but only if approached with reverence, self-mastery, and divine guidance.
This is a dedication. This is like choosing to become a monk or like a theologian or something like that.
That's a good comparison. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is nothing to stick your nose up at. This takes a lot if this is your path.
Right.
You got to be sure this is your path.
Right. It's almost like not just monks, but like people who become priests or nuns or anybody who is like
takes that kind of vow.
Yeah, taking a vow, like it's intense. So it seems to me like this is not like some kind of like hobby or like something to be curious about or dabble in. Like this Francis Barrett guy is pretty serious about.
This is no Ouija board club.
Like the Parker brothers, get the fuck out. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, dude. Agreed.
Yeah. So this last section is called Biographia Antiqua. I'll let you read it, but I just quickly want to just explain what it is. Biographia Antiqua serves as a hall of fame of magicians, philosophers, and alchemists, presenting a spiritual genealogy of esoteric knowledge that stretches from Zoroaster to Dee and Kelly, binding antiquity to the Renaissance.
This is his, like, who would you have to dinner list. Like this, this seems like, like the Hall of Fame of all these practitioners and learned people.
Yes.
And your mom's on here.
Dee! I wonder if she knows that.
She said she wanted to be uncredited. Anyway, yes, in closing, this section of the Magus, we find not just a catalog of names, but a kind of illuminated roll call, biographies of those who carried the flame of magical, alchemical, and astrological and philosophical wisdom. The purpose is twofold: to teach by showing the lineage of occult thought, and to inspire by holding these figures up as examples for students of the art. So it begins, as many traditions do, with Zoroaster, revered as the first great sage of the Magi. He is remembered as the fountainhead of divine philosophy, fire worship, and mystical rites, the earliest voice in the long river of hidden wisdom. From there, we pass to Hermes Trismegistus, the Egyptian priest-philosopher credited with a Homeric corpus. Hermes blended theology, physiology, and magic into one seamless tradition. His writings would echo down through centuries, shaping Renaissance magic and alchemy in profound ways. The path continues to Apollonius of Tyana, the Neo-Pythagorean philosophy and wonder worker whose life was said to be marked by healings, divinations, and miracles born of wisdom and purity. Petrus de Albano, an Italian physician and astrologer, followed with works on the influences of planets and spirits, though he was later condemned by the church as a magician. Apuleius, the Roman philosopher, carried the torch further, weaving Platonic philosophy into stories of magic, transformation, and initiation. Wait, an initiation in his golden ass? Is that a book?
We've talked about the golden ass before.
We have?
Yeah, we have.
Do you remember what context?
I don't remember what episode it was, but we've definitely talked about that.
Okay, it's clicking something in there. I believe you.
Yeah, no, we definitely talked about the golden ass.
I'm wondering if it was when we were first talking about like Zoroastrianism and probably like the alchemy tree and stuff like that.
You might be right. Yeah, maybe.
Even Aristotle finds his place here, not as a magician himself, but as the thinker whose natural philosophy became the very foundation for later magical theories of cause and substance. Alongside him stands the Artemidorus of Ephesus, remembered for his Onera Critica, the great work on dream interpretation that positioned dreams as windows into prophecy and symbol. No lineage of occult learning would be complete without the Babylonians, whose celestial observations became the bedrock of astrology, nor without Cornelius Agrippa, the German polymath who gathered Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, and Christian mysticism into his 3 books of occult philosophy. The medieval world brought Albertus Magnus. Maybe that's why I keep saying Magnus.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
The scholar and alchemist who bridged scholastic philosophy with esoteric tradition, and Roger Bacon, the English friar whose interest in optics, alchemy, and prophecy cast him as both a precursor to modern science and a man with one foot still in magical inquiry. Raymond Lully, the Catalan mystic, offered his Ars Magna, a system of divine and symbolic combinations, while George Ripley of England became famed for allegorical writings on the Philosopher's Stone. From Holland came John and Isaac Hollandus, who left behind practical treatises on metallical transformations, while in Switzerland, Paracelsus revolutionized medicine by turning from Galen to alchemy, chemistry, and the healing spark within nature itself. Later, John Rudolf Glauber continued this blend of the practical and the mystical, remembered for his Glauber's salts and his vision of chemistry as a sacred art. Then lastly, the Elizabethan age gave us Dr. John Dee, mathematician, astrologer, advisor to Queen Elizabeth. Okay. Whenever we talk, because D has come up before.
Okay.
I didn't know who it was. Advisor to Queen Elizabeth. And his squire, Edward Kelly, the medium through whom D claimed to speak with angels in the strange and haunted Enochian tongue. In conclusion, the Magus calls us to revere these names not as relics, but as pioneers. It insists that magic, alchemy, and Kabbalah are not superstitions when rightly understood, but part of a divine order. And it closes with an exhortation to pursue these arts with humility, with faith, and with a steadfast devotion to truth.
In a nutshell, Alice.
You might have gotten this one wrong.
Nothing in this book talks about any witch hangings, no New England witchcraft trials, nothing about the Hammer of the Witches, no John Hathorne,
Mather's not here.
Mather, no Matthew Hopkins, none of that is in the Magus.
I like what we do.
Yeah, me too. I kind of feel bad though, because I feel like I don't want to feel like we're picking apart, but I mean,
do you think that's why she didn't want to comment?
Oh, maybe you're right. Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. Maybe you're right.
I don't know.
I've
never heard of this anywhere else.
Right. Same.
But it pops up elsewhere in pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture. I like your segue. So we're going to talk about some pop culture influence and the legacy. The Magus helped spark the 19th century occult revival in England. It also influenced the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and, by extension, Wicca. It inspired writers like Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley, and even Arthur Edward Waite. And it was reprinted many times, and its illustrations are iconic. There are some illustrations throughout. Francis Barrett's The Magus in 1801 shaped modern pop culture's image of magic less as dry philosophy and more as theater. By blending natural science, alchemy, biblical mysticism, ritual instruction, and biographies of legendary magicians into a dramatic, almost liturgical style. Barrett created the template for what a, quote, magician looks and sounds like. Robed figures in circles, summoning spirits with candles, pentacles, and ancient names, half-priest and half-sorcerer. His elevated incantory language transformed magical practice into performance, making ritual feel like a spectacle. This theatricality seeped into Gothic literature, stage magic, fantasy novels, and eventually film, seeding archetypes like the alchemist scholar, the summoner of spirits, the crystal-gazing seer, and the tragic wizard. In short, the Magus gave Western culture its enduring aesthetic of magic, solemn, mysterious, and dramatically charged. The Magus also helped cement the Gothic and theatrical aesthetic of magic that still dominates pop culture today. Its imagery of pentacles, conjurations, ritual circles, and lofty invocations fed directly into 19th century occult revival groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which later inspired Aleister Crowley and W.B. Yeats. From there, Barrett's theatrical style trickled into literature. Bram Stoker's Dracula and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein carry traces of his fusion of science, mysticism, and ritual. In modern fantasy, the robed wizard, chanting in archaic words, owes as much to the Magus as to medieval grimoires, echoed in Tolkien's Gandalf, Dungeons and Dragons, spellcasting, and even Harry Potter's magical pedagogy. On screen, films like The Craft or Eat Practical Magic, a stage ritual almost like theater, with candles, circles, and incantations descended from Barrett's codified imagery, like the whole Melodico, right?
Yes.
Like stuff like that.
Or our AI posters we just talked about.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Very, very Magus-esque.
Yes.
Even stage magicians, Houdini, all up to David Copperfield, borrowed the solemn air of the, quote, Magus as mystic showman. In short, Barrett's book didn't just catalog magic, it scripted its performance, and pop culture has been acting out that script ever since. So interesting that it mentioned Houdini, because I'm pretty sure Houdini kind of like, didn't he poo-poo all of this like woo-woo stuff? Like he was like kind of against these quote charlatans trying to get one over on
right.
people,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And yet he made it a part of his like stage production. Like
This is what draws the crowds.
Exactly. So as much as he like shamed other people for using it, he did to some extent he used it himself, right? So here are some of the most iconic visuals and symbols from the Magus and how they've echoed through pop culture. One of the most enduring images in occult tradition is the magic circle. In the Magus, it is described as the magician's sacred stage, a boundary marked and consecrated with prayers, exorcisms, and names of power. The circle was meant to hold not just the magician, but the very authority of protection, a drawn line that spirits could not cross. This ancient idea still ripples through our culture today. Think of the salt circles in Hocus Pocus, cast for protection against witches, or the chalk and sigil circles in Supernatural, I can't do it again, demons. Holding demons at bay. Witches in The Craft or Charmed always begin their rituals by casting a circle, and even role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons preserve the notion directly, codifying, quote, circle of protection spells that trace back to grimoires like Barrett's. From circles, the text turns to pentacles and seals. Barrett laid out intricate diagrams, planetary pentacles and angelic sigils, as gateways to spiritual powers. Each line and symbol was more than decoration, it was a key, carefully aligned with heavenly forces. Pop culture still leans heavily on this imagery. Films like The Conjuring or Hereditary use ominous seals as portals for spirits. In Full Metal Alchemist, those elaborate transmutation circles are a stylized descendants of Barrett's diagrams. And in comics, from Hellboy to Doctor Strange, sigils have become the universal visual shorthand for, quote, real magic. Then there's the practice of crystal gazing. Barrett, drawing from Trithemius, outlined a method for consecrating crystals so they could serve as windows to the spirit world. Through them, visions and voices might appear. We still recognize this image instantly. The Wicked Witch of the West peers into her glowing crystal ball in The Wizard of Oz. In Harry Potter, Professor Trelawney leads students through hazy scrying lessons, and of course the fortune teller in every carnival tent, from Disney's Madame Leota in The Haunted Mansion to a Scooby-Doo villain in disguise, owes her glass globe to this very lineage. Another tool described in the Magus is the wizard's staff. For Barrett, rods and staffs weren't just props, they were ritual instruments, consecrated to channel planetary power, and yet they've become some of the most iconic images of magic in modern storytelling. Gandalf and Saruman wield their staves as both weapons and conduits in The Lord of the Rings. In Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-offs, wands and staffs carry similar energy. Video games from Skyrim to Final Fantasy keep the trope alive, turning staffs into magical powerhouses. Stage tools that trace directly back to ritual implements. And finally, there's the matter of invocation. Barrett's conjurations leaned on elevated, almost biblical language, long, solemn adjurations meant to command obedience from spirits. That cadence, that performance, it's something we still recognize. The faux Latin chants in Evil Dead's Necronomicon play with the same theatrical weight. In Doctor Strange or The Sandman, the spell casting is formal, incantatory, and commanding. Even the simple word abracadabra, we said that before, right? Now thought as a stage magician's trick, actually originates from ancient magical formulae once used for healing and protection. And again, the thing with that invocation, that what's the Maledico?
Dite peradante maledico.
Peradante, exactly. So practical magic uses it too. In all of these examples, we can see how Barrett's catalog in the Magus wasn't left behind on the dusty shelf. Its imagery, its language, and its tools still echo in the circles, symbols, crystals, staves, and invocations that define magic in our popular imagination today. So essentially, Barrett's The Magus transformed occult tools into a visual and theatrical language that later artists, writers, and filmmakers recycled into recognizable magical tropes. So maybe we have Barrett to actually thank for all of this, right?
Holy shit. Do we use almost all of this as not a Wiccan practitioner, but, paganism itself, what it's kind of turned into and what it follows, and the symbols and the sigils and the crystals. Oh my,
Right.
Yeah. So it's Barrett, everybody.
Definitely. And of course, he takes, a lot of his, we're going to talk about, I guess, his plagiarism stuff in a minute. Snowballing off of pop culture, I thought now would be a good time to talk about the Magus, not Francis Barrett's compendium of occult arts, but the novel by John Fowles. So Francis Barrett's esoteric guide is often confused with this Magus, which is a postmodern novel by British author John Fowles, published in 1965. It tells the story of Nicholas Urfey, a young Oxford graduate and aspiring poet who is teaching English on a small Greek island. After graduation, he briefly works as a teacher at a small school, but becomes bored and decides to leave England. While looking for another job, Nicholas takes up with Alison Kelly, a young Australian woman he meets at a party in London. He goes on to accept a post teaching English at the Lord Byron School on the Greek island of Phraxos. After beginning his new post, he becomes bored, depressed, disillusioned, and overwhelmed by his life on the Mediterranean island. Oh, what a hard life it must be. Yeah. Right? Oh, what a hard life it must be waking up to the Aegean Sea and, all that beautiful water and those, So Nicholas struggles with loneliness and contemplates suicide. While habitually wandering around the island, he stumbles upon an estate and soon meets its owner, Maurice Conchus, a wealthy Greek recluse. They develop a sort of friendship, and Conchus slowly reveals that he may have collaborated with the Nazis during World War II. What?
That came out of left field.
That took a weird turn.
I thought this was an erotic novel.
That's what I thought too. I think it is, but that's a little bit of a weird plot point. Exactly.
Okay.
So Nicholas is gradually drawn into Conchus's psychological games, his paradoxical views on life, his mysterious persona, and his eccentric masks. At first, Nicholas takes these machinations of Conchus, what the novel terms the, quote, God game, to be a joke, but they grow more elaborate and intense. Nicholas loses his ability to determine what is real and what is, I guess, artificial. Against his will and knowledge, he becomes a performer in the, quote, God game. Eventually, Nicholas realizes that the reenactments of the Nazi occupation, the absurd playlets after Sade, and the obscene parodies of Greek myths are not about Conchus's life but his own. So Earth becomes embroiled in the psychological illusions of a master trickster, which become increasingly dark and serious. It sounds like it could be a juicy read. It did say it was like an erotic postmodern novel.
It sounds kind of cool.
It does sound interesting. It is a bit, that little plot point is a bit weird, I must admit.
Right. I'm interested in like what kind of mind games go on between these two. Okay.
Psychological erotic thriller. Sign me up. Right? Sounds like a juicy read nonetheless. And then, so now I guess is a good time to talk about, going back to the Magus, criticisms and the chaos of it. Is it a masterpiece, or would you consider it more of a hot mess? Okay. And was the Magus plagiarized? That's the question, right? In large part, the Magus, 1801, is not so much an, quote, original occult grimoire as it is a compilation, a translation, and a rebranding of earlier Renaissance magical texts. Scholars often describe it as kind of like a greatest hits of occult philosophy.
This was his WMSR.
Oh my god!
Okay. All right.
Yeah. With Francis Barrett serving more as a popularizer than a true innovator. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here's what this means. Some of the sources that Barrett drew from. First, Cornelius Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy from 1533. This is the backbone of the Magus. Whole passages are lifted almost word for word. Barrett even repeats Agrippa's structure of moving from natural magic, herbs, stones, and numbers, to celestial astrological magic, to ceremonial magic. Okay, so he didn't really create any new vernacular. I guess he kind of just presented it in a more modern way. Then we have the Paracelsus and von Helmont. Barrett reuses their theories on magnetism, sympathy, and healing at a distance. Much of Book 2 on magnetism is distilled from them. Then the pseudo-Solomonic and Kabbalistic texts, the planetary seals, angelic names, ceremonial instructions come from earlier grimoires like the Key of Solomon and the Heptameron. And then we have the Renaissance philosophy philosophers of Ficino, Pico della Mirandola, Trithemius. These bring in the ideas about numbers, correspondences, angelic hierarchies, and they're more paraphrased rather than cited. So why was it called plagiarism? So Barrett rarely credited his sources, making it seem as if he had authored a unified occult, quote, system. Modern readers quickly recognized that the Magus was essentially Agrippa in the 18th century English with some Paracelsian extras. It wasn't considered plagiarism in the strict legal sense, since many of these texts were already in the public domain by 1801, right? Because like a lot of those ancient texts, Agrippa, that's 1533, by 1801, like that's well over the
that's free game.
100 years of, I think you have to renew your copyrights for it to continue being,
protected.
Protected, exactly. And if you don't have somebody in your estate to do that for you, then it goes into the public domain.
Okay, yeah.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair game.
Fair game. Yeah, but academically and ethically, it's clear that Barrett was compiling rather than creating. Maybe he should have started a podcast.
Maybe he should have had a hero page.
Maybe he should have, yeah, exactly. And, I don't know, started a WMSR or something. But so that's wild that, he just compiled all of this stuff into kind of like this, I guess, more digestible compendium and kind of made
Was he the ChatGPT of his day?
He might have been. He might have been.
We're getting loopy.
Oh, man. Okay, so here's why it still mattered, though. Even though he, lifted large parts of these ancient texts and kind of put it into his own thing without often citing his sources, it still mattered because it revived Renaissance magic for a romantic/occult revival audience. It was one of the only English language grimoires readily available in print for its time, and it directly influenced later occultists, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, 19th century ceremonial magicians, and even modern Wicca drew on it. So, in short, yes, Barrett, quote, plagiarized, but in doing so, he became the bridge between the Renaissance occult philosophy and modern pop cultural magic traditions. If you think about the Magus, it's less of a tight spell book and more of like a Pinterest board of occult inspiration.
I like that. Okay.
But that's part of the charm.
Okay. Digestible.
Yeah, it's more digestible.
But it's not.
Yo,
we made it digestible.
We made it more digestible. Yes.
Justina made it more digestible.
Well, I got some help from ChatGPT, but I think it would be great to still deep dive on all of those individual books and even chapters individually. If we want to go down that rabbit hole and do, this as more of a series, it might be cool to have a grimoire series, not just the Magus, but there were some other works that were kind of peppered in throughout, some names sprinkled in here that made me go, what's that? I want to go down that rabbit hole.
Agreed.
So it might not be a bad idea to maybe have a grimoire, I'm losing English series. Thank you. It's getting late. I haven't eaten dinner yet. And so what are some of the takeaways? Should you read it? I would say yes. If you're a magical historian, a ceremonial magician, or just a visual witchcraft girly.
Or boy.
I think it would be up your alley if this might strike your interest. If you want something more practical and modern, I would say maybe not. Maybe skip over this. It's not a how-to manual in the contemporary sense. It's more like a magical museum or gallery, one that still influences rituals, spellcraft, and aesthetics today, but maybe not so up to speed with modern practice.
Probably not. Yeah.
So if you don't want to sit and read it, you can always put it on YouTube in the background while you're working on other things.
That might be the way to go.
Yeah, I did manage to find a channel that is hosting both of the parts. The channel name, it's called the New Library of Alexandria. And we will link this in our hero page. You can also get it on an audiobook, I think on Spotify, but I think it was under a paywall. You have to pay for it to get it on there. But the YouTube videos are up there for free. So take the free resources if you can, right? As we close the book on the Magus, for now anyway, I think we might revisit this in parts. This was just an overview. I think it's clear why Alice Hoffman placed this text at the heart of the Owens family's mythology. In real history, Francis Barrett's Magus was an ambitious encyclopedia of occult philosophy, borrowing heavily from Agrippa and Paracelsus, weaving together alchemy, astrology, and ceremonial magic into a single theatrical system. It wasn't a handbook for witch trials, nor was it necessarily original, but its presence made magic feel tangible, structured, and dangerously alluring, even though Barrett made it very clear that this is not some kind of curiosity you should be like, dabbling, dipping your toe into. Like, you got to be serious, take this very seriously and virtuous about this as a practice, right? In Rules of Magic, Hoffman transforms the Magus into something more, a talisman of forbidden knowledge, a book that carries both the weight of history and the risk of temptation. For Vincent Owens, it becomes a companion, a mirror, and ultimately a burden that he must let go of to discover that the real magic is within himself. And the Magus, lastly, matters because it stands at the crossroads of fact and myth, of history and imagination, right? Alice kind of reimagined it into something completely different for her narrative to fit within the confines of her book and the Owens lineage. It is a real book that inspired curiosity in generations of occultists, and a fictional catalyst that drives Hoffman's characters to wrestle with destiny, identity, and power. And like so many, quote, forbidden texts in literature and pop culture, it reminds us that books are never just paper and ink. They are vessels of belief, desire, and transformation. And maybe that's just the most magical thing of all.
I believe that. Books are magic. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there for today, right?
Sounds good. So if you'd like to help support the show, you can visit us at patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast, where you can vote about what we talk about next. You can see our monthly calendars and even get a shout out on the show. You can grab our show notes, our after hours posts, and curated playlists. You're able to join our private communities over on Facebook and Discord for live streams, watch parties, and other chats. You can unlock bonus videos and bloopers, meditations, old vault footage, spells, and ritual content, plus exclusive demos of our original music. But if Patreon's not your thing, you can still support us for free by rating our show on Spotify or Apple Podcast and leave us a review. Share us on Instagram and check out our merch through the link in our bio. But again, that's patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast. Next week, we have a familiars episode. Going into our familiars, we're going to talk about the crow. A little bit about the raven, kind of mush those two together, try to cover them both. And make sure you check out our album, Bandcamp.com. It's in our links.
Stinas of magnoliastreet.bandcamp.com. We'll link it down below. Definitely go to Spotify now and stream the Magnolia Street Sessions Volume 1, right? Welcome to the neighborhood. And keep a lookout. We're trying to get some physical copies of the CDs made up, hopefully soon. So
they can be so pretty.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode today. We hope you enjoyed it. And with that, I'm Justina.
I'm Christina.
We'll see you next time.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you go down to Magnolia Street where the wisteria grow wild? And the house of magic and mystery, so would you go down to Magnolia Street?
They're still here. Hold on. All right, I think they've moved on.
Don't they know that we have the Magus to go through?
I know.